Good evening, everybody. I am back after some travel, and it's clearly a late start, as has been something of a tradition lately. But let me just see where the stream is. Okay, here we go. So yeah, I actually I was very close to just saying, maybe I just go to bed and rest up because next week is definitely going to be very busy, both streaming wise and work wise. But I also think because it's going to be so busy, it's better to reserve the option to hold off streaming. So for those of you who are maybe wondering where I was over the last week or so, I was out of the country. So one of the things about the new job is that it does occasionally involve a bit of travel, and this is the first of those. There will be a couple more cases, I suspect, at least this year, where I'm going to have to skip a stream, but I'll try to announce that as soon as I can. If you can just give me a second, I also need some water. Um, but yeah, so apologies, but work is the thing that keeps the lights on, and it's what will allow me to continue streaming for as long as I do. And I actually wound up being a bit sick while I was there, but that was actually largely a question of me not giving myself enough sleep. So I'm kind of taking that as a little bit of a lesson. In this case, I haven't set myself a specific time for streaming Book of Hours tonight, but we'll load it up. We will continue on with the save that we have. I really have no idea where we were in terms of the playthrough. And I'm going to sort of play it by ear. We'll enjoy the game, as is very easy to do. But if we go for 3 hours, okay, great. That does mean that I will be a bit late going to bed. Books of the Memory Which Does Not Die, inscribed in 5 languages over the gate of Hush House. Go quietly. Book of Hours is a forgiving sort of game. If you're worried that you might be stuck, there's usually another way. But if things turn out that it's appropriate to maybe wrap it up a little bit earlier, I do want to try and take it easy. Just because for the next week, it's worth remembering we've got a couple of big dates coming up. So Monday and Wednesday, I expect to stream Book of Hours, but it's worth remembering what dates certain things happen on. So the Monday is the 23rd, and then Wednesday is the 25th. But Thursday will be the 26th. That will be the day that the expansion is released, and so at that point, you may all be enjoying the game yourselves. And then I have a little uncertainty in terms of whether or not I am streaming on the 27th. Let me say that as far as the 27th goes, I will be streaming, but I'm not sure if I will be streaming on this channel or not. So, and I'll try to keep people informed in terms of where broadcasts are happening. So basically, this is one of the last streams of Book of Hours as an early look. And then Oswin, lovely to see you. I did see your message. I was sorry to hear that. We can chat about it while we're in the game, but it is always very nice to see you. I must apologize. There may not be a full-length stream tonight, but I'm very sleepy. But yeah, so Monday and Wednesday will be the last two of the lol, I'm an influencer and get to play games ahead of you versions. And then all of you will hopefully be enjoying your own salons and cooking and all of the lovely things that are in the House of Light expansion. It's fine, you're sleepy and buzzed from conference activities. That's actually more or less how I feel too. I don't quite know what I was expecting conference-wise. By the way, I was wrong. I was nowhere near Baltimore. Well, that's not entirely true, but like I definitely got the locations wrong. But still, first time in the U.S. as an adult. It was very American. But I had a good time. I guess the funny thing is that I kind of had a rough expectation of what it would be like. But yeah, the especially the work stuff that I did was just, yeah, it was neat. So, and then actually coming back home, there was a bunch of stuff I wasn't expecting to. Did I think you were all gun-toting crazies? Maybe? No, nothing quite that. No, actually, so one of the things I was delighted by was, so in some cases, one of the things that I noticed for a couple of things, it was quite comparable to Canada. So I went through some parts of Washington, and then I don't know. I was maybe a little surprised. So I like walk or take the bus everywhere, and it definitely felt that things were much more set up. I think things were much more set up for driving rather than like any kind of public transit or something like that. Although the airport, the fact that there was sort of like a monorail to get through different parts of the airport was certainly an indication in terms of how small the airports I normally go to are. What were some of the other things? I didn't actually get to spend a lot of time in DC, so I really got to see all the, all the landmarks from the window of a vehicle. But yeah, it was like, it's still cool to see, like the Washington Monument and all of that. Like just the architecture of them is of all of those buildings is very interesting. There's the things that actually really struck me were like the little things. So for instance, we don't have Trader Joe's in Canada. In Vancouver, there used to be a thing called Pirate Joe's, which I think Trader Joe's kept trying to shut down. But I actually went to my first Trader Joe's on this trip. And the other thing that I found was kind of interesting. So I, every once in a while, kind of lose my mind, and I really want to get specific books. But I'm also a bit fussy when it comes to bookstores. So for instance, in Canada, we have a chain called Indigo Books and Music, sometimes called Chapters, because they sort of took over. It was like a rival chain called Chapters, but essentially Indigo took them over, and they wind up being used interchangeably. I think the things that used to be Chapters are still called Chapters, and the things that used to be called Indigo are still called Indigo. But I think the parent company is called Indigo. And they've done this sort of transition from a big box book retailer to more like, I think the way they position it, I feel okay doing this rant because this is Book of Hours, and this actually gives a little bit of an indication in terms of why I why I like this game so much. But their whole pivot has sort of been to like reading lifestyle, quote unquote. So they'll like sell tea and teapots and scented candles and blankets and pillows. So like half of the square footage of their like new flagship store in the city I live in is dedicated to stuff that's not reading. And to a certain extent, that's fine. But I think the lack of books, and specifically the fact that when I first went there, I was actually trying to find Animal Farm for a coworker. And when I finally found Orwell in that book, in that bookstore, there was one copy of 1984. And a similar experience actually last month. I was looking for Huxley's A Brave New World, and that I couldn't find a copy. I eventually had to go to a place that was near where I lived. And once upon a time, I used to be able to rely on this chain, and I get it, right? So I mean, I think the equivalent in the States would be something like Barnes and Noble. And it's very difficult to operate a store like that, because the whole reason why Amazon started with books was that it was this sort of beta test for the idea of an everything store. There's lots of different products in terms of books, but they are also relatively straightforward to ship. And so when you want to start eventually moving into dog food and TVs, you can do that, but basically to demonstrate that you can sort of handle this thing at scale, there was a very specific and conscious choice made on books. And so while the big box stores have this real advantage in being able to give you a lot of different things, it can never really compete with a bookstore which has, which is online, doesn't have the same physical costs, and can get that stuff out to you pretty quickly. So, but the thing is that the reason I like going to these physical bookstores, first of all, sometimes I just want to get a book on a whim, and particularly where I live now, where the library isn't as good as the one that was in Vancouver, I'll find myself in a position where I actually want to pick up a book and get on with it. That day. And in that case, that is actually a case where websites, even though I don't shop on Amazon, this is actually a case where websites tend to fail, because even if I want it on a whim, it's still going to take a couple of days for shipping. So the thing that frustrates me about this pivot in terms of Indigo is that their whole attitude is, well, we'll keep the really popular ones in the store. And then if, when you are looking for a book and can't find it, we'll say, oh, well, we can order it in for you. And it's like, well, I can do that myself, right? I don't need to go to your physical store. It's actually more inconvenient for me to go to your physical store to go on your kiosk and order the book, right? I could do that in my pajamas at home. So if I need to order a book, which does often happen, what I will do is I'll just kind of go a few blocks away to a local bookstore. What book am I reading now? I'll actually get to that in a minute, Oswin, because it's the one thing I am eventually going to get to the to one of the interesting differences in terms of the states. But yeah, it's just one of these things where I'm still kind of cranky about it, and it does make me think. There's an interview that Neil Stephenson gave. I think this might have been his Slashdot interview. It's available. I read it in his collection of essays called Some Remarks, and I think he gave some comment about bookstores and the idea that if bookstores are like bricks and mortar objects that turn books into money, then of course the online bookstore will kill the physical bookstore. But that's not what bookstores are. In fact, I remember this far more in Vancouver, where bookstores are places where authors do signings and where people who like books meet each other, right? Because there is also a type of reader who doesn't like being online a whole lot. And the way, if you do want to connect with people, it can be through things like libraries and bookstores and so on. These are also people, by the way, who really don't have a whole hell of a lot of time for blankets and pillows in bookstores. But sorry, I realize I sound like an elitist on this, but it is frustrating that, there'll be, 50 copies of a pop star memoir, and I can't find George Orwell in the flagship big box bookstore. But yeah, it's just, things like signings, building community. There's a lot of things that a bookstore does that in fact justify that markup relative to the thin margins of online bookstores. Like there is actually a case to be made for that, and it's a fairly, that Slashdot interview's got to be like 20 years old, so it's not even a new insight. First prime minister I ever met was actually in a bookstore, and not in Ottawa. So like these are things that have real value. And just the simple fact, right? Like if you go to a bookstore, and you run into someone who likes reading. It's a specialty bookstore, right? Some like science fiction fantasy bookstore that's been there, since you could get a paperback for like $2, and the idea of having science fiction on as like the major releases on television, or science fiction or fantasy as major releases on television, was like the occasional thing, like Star Trek or the Twilight Zone, and everything else was just too disrespectful to be brought in. Something that's been around since that time. Chances are, if you're like, hey, do you got more like this? You're gonna run into a person running that bookstore who loves reading in a completely infectious way and will give you that perfect recommendation that is like just right for that moment in your life, and you will cherish that book forever. That's the sort of stuff that makes a bookstore worthwhile. So again, it's a bit of a disappointment to me. So I can remember when just before I went on this trip, I was on a bit of a Vonnegut kick. So I was specifically looking for I was looking for a specific book, but I wound up buying a couple of others during my journey. I did, so I don't want to knock the big chain too much. The indie bookstore that I went to didn't have any from him, and I actually you'll appreciate this, Oswin. When I talked with the cashier, we bonded. He just put a big smile over his face and kind of put his hand on the cover, and it's like, Vonnegut. And we chatted a little bit, and he says, he's got this really good talk. And I said, it's on YouTube. What was it called? And I said, is it The Shapes of Stories by any chance? Because I love that talk. And every once in a while, I talk with somebody about that talk, and then I go and I watch it again, and I fall in love with that talk all over again. He's like, it is The Shapes of Stories. It's a wonderful talk, isn't it? It's like, yeah, and we just had a nice little chat about it. Good writer, really good speaker, and that is the sort of stuff that you want to have happen in a bookstore. I actually also had one nice moment. I ordered a book, and I picked it up. So like the way they do the orders, there's a separate part of the store, and they go into the back room and bring it out. And when I opened up the wrapping, there was a little yellow sticky note saying that, I really love this book. I hope you like it too. Quick note in there. And just, again, it's one of these nice things, right? There's somebody, don't even know who it is in the bookstore, but they liked the book enough that as soon as they saw that somebody had ordered it in, they felt the need to comment, and to a complete stranger. That is what a bookstore is about. So the thing that, and this is funny, like the thing that is so interesting about this is that this runs completely counter to the narrative of Americans, right? Bunch of big, dumb, wealthy gun owners. So I think the chain was called Books A Million or something like that. and went in, walls of books. I mean, there were still puzzles and a couple games and stuff like that. There was a music section. Like, again, I'm not a purist. I'm not a Puritan bookstore connoisseur. I do not feel that the record shop has no place in a bookstore. But the sort of thing that I remember used to seeing in Canada, right? Just a bunch of shelves. I was actually specifically looking. There was a mass market section for the paperbacks, which I really appreciated because I was looking for something for my neighbor. Unfortunately, they didn't have it, but there used to be like a mass market version of a book that I thought my neighbor might like, and I thought I might have a chance of doing that. So I was traveling with a couple of coworkers, so I wound up picking up a different book and just kind of give as a random gift to one of my coworkers. But then I went to the Vonnegut section, and they had like everything by him. Actually, the only thing that they didn't have was the one that was, I think he gets credited and his student gets like co-credit on it, but there's a book of his like writing lessons, like as a teacher, not the technical journal one that he wrote. But the book's called Pity the Reader. But that I actually got at a library, so I wasn't too torn up about that not being there. But the one that I was looking for, the one that was not present in two big chain bookstores in Ottawa, and the indie bookstore, which didn't have any Vonnegut inside of it, which I think is a real mark of shame for an indie bookstore, is it was Player Piano. And actually, let me bring up the summary for Player Piano, because I think you'll see why I chose this. So first of all, it's the one that he it's the first one that he ever published, his debut novel. I don't know how long he had been trying to write. I'm just bringing up his biography right here. So, okay, so he'd quit his job in 51. His first novel published 52. He incidentally had, it didn't sell well. So far as I can tell, he was actually having some trouble making ends meet as far as supporting his writing was concerned. So all the more, I suppose all the better for his decision to go out on his own. But here we go. So this is the Wikipedia article. Player Piano is the debut novel by American writer Kurt Vonnegut Jr., published in 1952. The novel depicts a dystopia of automation partly inspired by the author's time working at General Electric, describing the negative impact technology can have on quality of life. The story takes place in a near-future society that is almost totally mechanized, eliminating the need for human laborers. The widespread mechanization creates conflict between the wealthy upper class, the engineers and managers, who keep society running, and the lower class, whose skills and purpose in society have been replaced by machines. The book uses irony and sentimentality, which were to become hallmarks developed further in Vonnegut's later works. Oh, so the thing I understand about Player Piano is that one of the characters is one of these managers, and the automation is reaching a level where the managers are now at risk. And I thought, like, again, 1952. This is, of course, something that I want to be reading right now. And again, I don't know, I haven't heard a lot of people refer to Player Piano in the light of all of the developments in terms of AI and specifically large language models. But I felt that it was worthwhile. And also, I mean, really, I read Slaughterhouse-Five because it was assigned in my first year English class. I'm very glad that it was, because I really feel like this is an author who I have a lot of time for. So with that in mind, when there's again, it's one of these things where you sometimes just have to read it at the right moment. It's a good time to read a book like that. I'm interested in Vonnegut. Picked up a few more of his books. I'll definitely read Slaughterhouse-Five again. And overall, seemed like the right moment. So good on the U.S. I guess the point I was making on that was that the plenty, or the fact that they were able to support a bookstore which had that kind of selection, which didn't like 100% cover everything that I was looking for, but did so in a way that actually forced me to have to choose which of the books I wanted to keep. Was good. I didn't spend, like, obviously I didn't travel just to go shopping. I also went to a strange and secret tea store. But yeah, it was good. You're all on a Paul Auster kick right now, so I get the fascination with Moana. Yeah, I mean, it's just, sometimes I don't know, like, so every once in a while I just get compelled to read a particular author or a particular book. It sometimes becomes a bit of a problem because if I'm like really disciplined with spending money, sometimes the way that manifests is I'll like go onto a used book website. I use either ThriftBooks or Biblio.com frequently to get those, and I'll just like spend a truly obscene amount, and it's like, what was the point of saving money if I'm going to do that? So yeah, it's, there's you win some, you lose some. That's all I could say. But yeah, so that's the long answer to your question. What I'm reading right now, I picked up Player Piano, and I'll be starting that fairly soon. I think I had mentioned before, but I'm reading Jonathan Swift's Tale of a Tub. I already really like Jonathan Swift, but man, that guy was like, that guy was on fire when he wrote that. That is a true gem. I am so glad that I started that one too. So that was a good one. And then at the local, like at the writers group at work, I'm actually late on giving some feedback to one of the attendees, but they were sick, so they also knew that I was traveling. So I think I get a pass on that. But before we jump into the game, I did want to say another thing on the bookstore thing. Again, like as Oswin put this in a nice way, like the idea of reading becoming an aesthetic choice is, it can be discouraging if you feel that the bookstore is for something different. But we also got to give some examples of how, despite that, there's still those pockets of those really nice moments in terms of bookstores and love of reading and so on. The other thing too is, like, I understand that bookstores, like, one of the ways that they keep afloat is the children's section, because you get a kid and there's you want them to start reading, so you get lots of children's books. But there is something kind of interesting, right? That if the children's book section is the big one, the big money maker, it also implies that somewhere between those books being bought and those kids that were supposed to be given a love of reading at the start, something's happening to them, right? Because in theory, if we've had a couple of generations of that, instill a love of reading, those adults, those parents that are buying the books for the kids, should be buying the adult books as well. But that isn't always happening. So, or maybe they're buying it on a device, right? It could be that they're reading on a tablet or a phone, but I don't know. It'd be interesting to see some stats on that, actually. But I was kind of thinking about the two different experiences, right? Like how sometimes it'll be, you go and there's a very narrow selection or something like that. But it reminded me also of when I went to a craft store. So my copy of Ovid's Fasti, it was bought back in back in Vancouver, I'm pretty sure I got it at a used bookstore there. There's one I used to love going to. It was downtown. It's called McLeod's. And it's the old, like, the great stuff about liking classics, as long as the Penguin translation is good. And I don't always check the translations, but, you know, Penguin's pretty reliable, and Penguin's been around forever. So it's a nice, you know, liquid market. If anything, there's way too much supply. So, you know, you can usually get some really great books for a song. And it's like a standardized format. But, you know, when they're used, sometimes the quality's in different states. In this particular case, the spine of the book became detached from the adhesive, the glue. And so sort of the front cover would be flapping, kind of like a screen door that doesn't have the, for whatever reason, isn't latching anymore. So I was sort of like, okay, well, this is like only mildly annoying, but I kind of realized that if I keep it like this book is not gonna make it, right? It's gonna fall apart. And I don't like the, you know, first of all, I'd never throw out a book. But this felt like something that could be fixed. And I do have some glue at home, but I was like, you know, I'm pretty sure there's a special glue. So I did a quick little bit of searching, and then sure enough, they recommend sort of a pH neutral kind of glue and so on and so forth. So I'm like, okay, well, let me see if I can find this. And of course, this brought me into the bookbinding subculture. And I'm like, okay, I think I found my new hobby. But on top of that, it was only one step away from anthropodermic bibliogeny, which I feel is very Book of Hours oriented. But what I really liked about this was I went to a craft store in the mall that's near work. Kind of went in and was looking at all the canvas stuff, because that seemed to be where there might be sort of pH neutral glue. But eventually I kind of give up and go to one of the attendees. I'm like, sorry, I don't know what I'm doing here. This is what I'm looking for. So, oh yeah, it's in the back here. It's like, are you bookbinding, or are you just fixing one? I was like, okay, found the right person. I'm like, well, I'm just fixing one right now, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of curious. And like, sure enough, they had like all the stuff in the back there. So I'm like, okay, this is definitely the start of a new hobby. But yeah, I mean, I suppose that's another way of letting your reading habit expand, is to suddenly find out that bookbinding is a thing, and that it is in fact within your hands. Anyways, I know a few of you are here for Book of Hours. I'm not entirely sure it's wrong to talk about reading and a love of reading and the culture of reading, but let's get on with it. You will notice that the beta sign is away. So let's do a summary of what's in here. First of all, the authors. Weather Factory is Design, Writing, and Coding by Alexis Kennedy. Art, Production, and Marketing by Lottie Bevan. Salute the Collaborators. Additional Coding, Roman Loskudov, Knights of Unity, and FRGM. Additional art by Adrian Degan, Clockwork Cuckoo, and Catherine Unger. The lovely music that you have been listening to for the past half hour is by Maribeth Solomon and Brett Barkman for Mickey Mar Productions Limited, R.I.P. Mickey Erb. Sound effects by Soundcuts. Special thank you to the Chinese and Russian and Steam page localization. Clock Q. In fact, I recall liked the tweet where I said, I'm tired and I need to find out what I'm doing. And special thanks all of our beta testers, Riley Lebrecq for Steamworks.net, Fingles Coffee on Trafalgar Road, Johnny Cockland and Mark Lewis, Alex Tuddy and Anna Poulter-Jones, PK and Sonia, Matt and Taz, Sulo and Chi. And House of Light in the House of Light. House of Light is a big expansion woven deep into the game. Here's a spoiler light guide on how to find the new bits. Food, combine ingredients at the 3 kitchen workstations to create dozens of new dishes. You will need kitchenware items to find all the recipes. The spice scales and the spices and savors skill will substitute for each other. A writing case. Watch for a gift at the end of the first spring after you've responded to St. Ronwin's Trust. Once you have received this gift, you can record addresses from the calling cards left by satisfied visitors and write to these visitors to invite them back to the house. Tip: visitors don't arrive instantly, visitors don't leave calling cards until you've helped them, and some visitors are easier to summon than others. Salons: place food and drink in one of the 6 salon rooms and then use the bell to begin the salon. Do it right and you will be rewarded with sparkling conversation and lessons. Tip: visitors usually prefer food and drink, which matches their primary interest, but some have additional requirements. Manuscripts: use paper, ink, and a skill to write a manuscript based on that skill. These manuscripts may be necessary to satisfy thirst for specific knowledge and further stories. Lessons from salons will help you improve those skills and write more useful manuscripts. Tip: you can't reliably control what visitors will discuss. It's a party, not an interrogation, but they'll usually provide lessons related to their shared interests. Further stories: once you have completed an incident, follow it up in the Tree of Wisdoms. Visitors will need more specific help here, perhaps a book on a specific topic or a specific book. Tip: an affair opens to further stories once all interested visitors have had the opportunity to ask for help with it. Be aware, in some further stories, it can make a difference who you originally helped. Be careful, this is one part of the game where choices can sometimes have permanent consequences. The Institute: look for the lighthouse out at sea. When your visitors are ready, use it to establish the true heirs of the Curia of the Isle. Tip: further stories outcomes can inspire your visitors to support the Institute for their own reasons. Their nature is constant, but some story outcomes can make them decide to emphasize one agenda over another. Welcome back, librarian. Everything is remembered. Hush House endures. Game loaded successfully. So we were working on a salon, but I do need to figure out what the overall plan is, because I think I also had a number of books that I would be able to read. So yes, I seem to recall the Time of Division was available to me, and I was going to use that. I feel like I had a game plan going for my skills, so let me just consult my tablet really quick. Yes, there was surgeries and exsanguinations, which was at 5. And then I think the plan was going to be sights and sensations at 6, Inks of Revelation at 7, glass blowing and vessel crafting at 8, and then quenchings and quellings at 9. But I don't need to work on that right now. What I do need to work on is Nyctodromy. Oh, actually, that's not entirely true. If I can get... yeah, actually, if I can get sights and sensations up to 6... So that's a sky in winter. Well, there's my winter. Hard in winter, but... Okay, so... I mean, my other option is just YOLO it and see where it all goes. So, yeah, let's actually start with the scar in the sky, and wrote this and came to regret it. So I bring in my whist, we would bring quenchings and quellings to bear. We take the scar in the sky, we add Fusine, which doesn't provide any winter. Okay, so from there, I need two more winter to be able to bring this up. Now, I could potentially get lucky with the book as well, but let's not worry about getting lucky. Let's worry about getting it right. So for start, let's take my... Actually, you know, I can take my whist. Use my good old friend whist, and we will... Actually, I don't think I've read Glimmerings yet. So I've got regrets. It's got to be a 2 winter, so let's do the Barrowchild's Elegies. I've already mastered this text, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. That is a cat! Pet cat. Oh, you were hoping to work on that desk? The aspects of a cat are 2 Grail. Hunger, lust, the drowning waters. The principle of the Grail honors both the birth and the feast. Heart, the heart relentless beats to protect the skin of the world we understand. The heart is the principle that continues and preserves. Moth, I knew a man who captured moths in a bell jar. On nights like this, he would release them one by one to die in the candle. Moth is the wild and perilous principle of chaos and yearning. It's a beast when it moves, and it's not the wind, and it's not a person. Comfort, Hush House has been called bleak, but usually only by those who have never been inside. And cooperative. No trouble at all, at least not just now. I believe we also have the dog. There he is. So if we contrast a cat to a dog, dog has 2 edge, heart, and 2 scale. Prosciutto Fist! Lovely to see you. We've got 2 wonderful streamers in here. Let me actually get the... I realize everybody kind of knows each other. I got to, if you really want, you can check the VOD to hear me talk for half an hour about bookstores and my impression of the Excited States of America. And I think that was it, really. Oswin may feel differently, but we've got 2 streamers who I've actually found through Weather Factory games, either Cultist Simulator or Book of Hours. Oswin Meow is currently doing a Book of Hours playthrough and is a real-life scientist with lots of interesting opinions. It's actually very fun to engage Oswin on stream, so for those of you that do like interacting or maybe don't normally interact, I can definitely let you know that hers is a stream that's really worth taking the time to sort of have the back and forth with. But on top of that, we've got Prosciutto Fist, who I can also say in terms of interesting topics has now done 2 history streams, and I know one was maybe a bit more popular than the other just in terms of the overall take-up, but sometimes that's as much of a function as like whether or not people were available at the time. But I believe on her Discord there has been the vote for the next the next topic, a character who is in fact in Cultist Simulator, one of the later expeditions that you go on. But no, it's there's actually 2 things about it. So I can remember I was specifically there. We were talking about Grace Murray Hopper when Pro sort of talked a bit about the idea of doing history streams. She started with a Demon Core, which is she has said is her Roman Empire, and then did the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory Fire. I hope I got that right. And I'll let her speak to the next topics if there's any kind of advertising to be done. But no, I think the thing that I liked about that was to go from a streamer who I already enjoy watching to see them have an idea and actually take the time and the effort to implement it, right? Because it's one thing to say you want to do things. I've had 100,000 different ideas for streaming, but you actually need to do it, right? otherwise it doesn't matter. You know, you can have 100 good ideas for something, and you know, if they stay ideas, then what good are they? Thank you for well, I thought you were going to say Zelensky personally, but okay. If that's the first place your mind goes, Prosciutto Fist, you're among friends. You can be yourself here. But anyways, no, it's really fun. It's fun to see somebody try something new, see it rewarded, and I am actually really encouraged that Pro's continuing on the list of topics. I think it's going to be a fun set of things to do, and so I do recommend both Oswin and Prosciutto Fist, largely for the same reasons actually. But they're both really interesting and unique people, and they absolutely have their own. They kind of have their own stamp on the work that they do, which for me is a lot of the fun in terms of watching them. And of course, one of the great joys of watching them specifically do something like Book of Hours or Cultist Simulator. Also, Pro, if you've not seen the Shapes of Stories lecture, Oswin got that sent to her as well, so you can create a united front of annoying things that the streamer sends to you on your private DMs, no matter how many times you ban or say, please stop sending me things. What gives? Sorry, I'm trying to find what to do with my... Yeah, so I think the right call here is just to try and read as many things as possible. So Time of Division, 14 Heart. I imagine I'm going to need to augment that with... Okay. So the tricky part here is that the winter book will already be taking up my quenchings and quellings. And I do need a thunderstorm if I'm going to make this happen. Actually, the thunderstorm's not quite enough. Yeah, so I'm actually gonna have to read these on 2 separate occasions, which is fine. Yeah, it's all good. I was actually wondering because I thought I saw a stream announcement for you, and I'm glad I didn't miss it because I know I was only a partial attendee to some of your other stuff earlier this week. Okay, and sorry, I'm trying not to deliberately drag things out, but I also want to come up with a game plan for today. I don't have a direct need for Mr. Kill right now, but I don't think it would hurt to have a chat with him. So Mr. Kill always enjoys a chance to catch up with me. If you don't choose a topic, Mr. Kill will offer help as a friend. We will get the usual money. So I could offer help with correspondence and arithmetic. There's no school in Brandkrug, and not everyone here knows their letters. And we'll start opening packages. Brown paper packages tied up with string? That sounds uncharacteristic of me. Who threw this overboard? And I do want to still explore the moor and the sea. Yeah, this will work. Yeah, we'll start with that. I think the goal for today is going to be to read and work with the star in the sky. Oh, it's raining. Soft rain brings life. Mr. Kill can always spare a few hours to help a friend. The coffin maker's assistant, a tamer of trees, a worker of woods, a consigner of cadavers. He has also been known to try his hand very diffidently at poetry. Mr. Kill, Ryan Spry, doesn't mind stopping for a gossip, add something to enhance Mr. Kill's effectiveness for the day, or just talk. Unlike some assistants, Mr. Kill can make use of wood. Now, one thing I just want to be clear on is that we actually have enough for... You know, the funny thing is, Oswin, there was a hard one to find, and it used to be somewhere up here, but I think they moved it to be a little more accessible. Although, obviously, they had at least one player that didn't spot it. So yeah, it's not always the easiest to find, but there you go. You got something to try out. But yeah, so the original plan would be to just have the Salon, but I will actually be better served by trying to get as many elements of the soul as I can before starting it. Okay, I wonder if I had a specific plan for this. So with that in mind, I want to try and sort of bang through the books that I already have here, and if I can, I want to try and level things up in the Nyctodromi and Skolakosophy wisdoms. And if it means that, you know, we have a Salon in spring instead, listen, it's fine. We'll work it all out. Dead men don't tell no bloody tales. Who'd listen? So part of the reason for bringing in Mr. Kill right now is just being able to generate a bunch of memories at a time when I'm going to be wanting to do some skill upgrades. It just gives me a nice head start. Obviously, I'm going to be trying to bring up sights and sensations, which is not the easiest thing to level up compared to some of my other skills. Ambergris chunk. Never, never, never call it whale vomit. You can see we've got quite the collection already. Back to the sea. If I cast an object into the sea, it will be lost, perhaps irretrievably. Use this to dispose of junk or of danger. But this does actually have a benefit for me with regards to sights and sensations. That'll be probably apparent in a minute. Let's go... Yeah, I can still afford to use the Whist, although I really should be using other elements of the soul. Oh, I can use the Arab, actually. What ship lost this? An afternoon spent profitably reading newspapers to the curious, writing affectionate letters for the lonely, steering farmers to the requirements of the Ministry of Agriculture. Tuppence will buy me a hearty meal in a quiet place where I can rest and gather my thoughts. It is winter, and the storms have tightened the seas. I am sitting before the fire in the sweet bones with a beef and potato pasty in one hand and a hot ale posset in the other. The Barrowchild's Elegies. The Barrowchild, a Gaulish adept who won a place in the ranks of the Ordo Lamea, enumerates the great shadows laid to rest in tombs of power and discusses their various conditions. The Barrowchild identifies numerous modes that are neither true death nor true life: the vitrification of the heart, the corrupt light of the wood, core stasis, the wandering of the fet. The Barrowchild warns particularly of the avidity of tryst, where a remnant shadow's longing for change survives its sense of self and even devours its whist. That longing may draw the curious into the tomb, where the remnant shadow changes so that it cannot be distinguished from its visitor, or that the reverse becomes true, and that it is never again possible to say whether it is the shadow or the visitor that exits the tomb. Regret. Every choice has its shadow. Okay, so we are going to read The Scar in the Sky. Nin wrote this and came to regret it. These are quenchings and quellings, our whist. And finally, an unfamiliar language. What is this? Fusine. A people lived east of the lost lake Fusino. Horace warned that theirs was the land of witches. This was their language, called by some the dry tongue, and by others the tongue of witches. Winter, a conclusion. I can master this mystery. Enough winter to match mystery winter. Now, I suppose it did occur to me that I've actually got a mystery that I can solve in this room. We're not quite ready for that yet, I don't think. When something is given to the sea, it rarely returns, although of course I did. Oop. Fear, the oldest and strongest emotion of mankind, is fear, and the oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown. Out of curiosity, has anybody read that essay here? It's a long one, but it's quite a good one. It's H.P. Lovecraft's sort of account of weird horror stories, and it's a very informative one, both in terms of just sort of what interested him, but also just kind of getting a bit of a reading list in terms of like, oh, okay, this is a obviously now quite well-respected contributor to this genre, giving an account of its history and where certain authors succeeded or didn't succeed in sort of, I don't know, pulling off what they wanted to do. Unexpected finds in the folds of earth and sky. All right, so the question is, do I want to keep doing this? And I think the answer is yes. So let's go for some more beachcombing. Use rhyme and remembrance. Similar story with the moor. Hush House feels oddly similar to the house I'm staying at currently, with random old books and hidden things behind walls. Ooh. When you say hidden things behind walls, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show something that isn't... so showing this is a little bit of a secret, but I'm showing this particular secret because the revelation for this one isn't so big. I've definitely loosened up in terms of showing this. It isn't so big, and I think it will trigger attention for other things. So if you like secret panels, oh, this looks out of place. That's not the only secret in the house. There are many secrets in the house. That, in fact, is one of the types of secrets in the house. So those were implemented a long time ago. They were commented on in a patch. And I certainly didn't find them right away. But it's one of those things when you stream, you want to... I hope Pro saw that as well. Yeah, it's one of these things that once you know about them and you're a streamer, it's like, is this the sort of thing that you want people to be delighted by, on discovering on their own? And there was actually a post that recently came out about secret locations. And so, yeah. You found cups with faces and a journal behind walls today? Oh, Osmond. I can't. When you get later on in the game, we're going to go back to that comment that you just made. Because I am actually now convinced that you may be living in Hush House. Although if we want faces, let's just see here. Is it? I think if you put these, the eyes are too close together. Kind of want to widen them, but... Eye, mouth. Yeah. Anyways. Good fun. Let's keep opening packages. Something tasty. Crack open the container. Delight in your discovery. Better now. Right, we're still going to use this to make some money. We're going to need some elements of the soul to level up the skill. Revelation. Some truths come to us from outside or above. Trying to think where I want to open things next. All the wintry stuff, I guess, is... Sure. Well, actually, probably the forge or the knock would be straightforward next. Ooh, another regret. And then this one should be finishing up fairly soon. And we'll take the rest of the day to try and level up sights and sensations and any other opportunities we have to increase things. You really do love giving me that sand. White silver stand in which the voice of the waves lingers. And animal bones. What remains? I think I was actually getting a bone collection down here. So I guess here's a question. If I wanted to... Oh, no, that's a kitchen fire. I want a fireplace fire. So if I needed to generate animal bones, can I just... No. Oh, cool. We got a soft amber pumpkin. I can make another dessert. A lovely golden gourd grown soft beside... Sorry. Grown beside the soft sea. I always wait for the pro bruh. I would be much better behaved if I did not know that I was going to be rewarded by by pro's condemnation of my behavior. Okay, so this is one of the few items that I've not made yet. So we will add the soft... Oh! Oh no! I've locked the pumpkin away. We can fix this. Okay, add the health, and we need spice scales. Bake a honey-haunted pumpkin pie. A dish with edge, forge, heart, knock, moth, nectar, and scale. The final boss of pies. Actually, Pro, you've seen the dog, right? Walkies are surely a small price to pay for his unshakable fidelity. Would you say that Zag is a 2-edge, 2-heart, 2-scale beastie? All conquest occurs at the edge. One who dwells there is blind and cannot be wounded. Another is strong and grows stronger. Edge is the principle of battle and of struggle. Heart, the heart relentless beats to protect the skin of the world we understand. The heart is the principle that continues and preserves. And scale, hard without, hard within, hard to rouse, harder to subdue. What is left of the crude powers of the deep earth? Don't understand scale. Specifically for the dog? Because I think I agree. Like, I've seen scale with the chickens, which I think I can... Well, and the serpents. The snake by far is the easiest one. Presumably if there was a fish companion. In general, okay. Well, scale is definitely one of the ones that's new from Book of Hours compared to Cultist Simulator. And Pro says 4 heart at least and no scale. Heart also is the principle for like dancing and rhythm, so he's like a salsa dancing Zag. The Scar in the Sky. Nin wrote this and came to regret it. Each page of this book contains one word only, but as each page is turned, a knowledge creeps in. The final page is crowded. Each reader of the book records the same word. Now it is my turn. So 2 quenchings and quellings lessons from that. And a regret. So we'll add that to the regret shelf for a start. And our main goal for the rest of the night is going to be, or for the rest of, not the rest of the night, but the rest of today is going to be to try and get Sights and Sensations up to level 6. So for that we will use Sky and Winter Memories. So we have Regret, and I actually think there's the Loss, but I think that's it for Sky and Winter right now. Well, I have the Old Wound in as a backup, I suppose. So if I leave this Whist aside, I need to generate 3 more. Let's make it a little bit easier for myself. So we've got Ambrose's desk here, and we'll read the Perugian Diaries. I've already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. So that'll get me a Sky that I can work with. What I want to do right now is get sort of the Sky and the Winter that Mr. Kill won't potentially generate already. I don't really need the Arab, so we'll use that. Well, I guess the Savage Hymn will also produce another Sky, so we'll use Singlefoot Songs there. So I suppose by that logic, another, yeah, I guess Beguiling Melody would do the trick. Actually, Salt also works. Let's do Salt. So for that, I'll use the Faust at the reading room desk. The book wheel is a DeWolf heirloom, a gift to Ava DeWolf from her admirer, the adept Franklin Bancroft. The desk and the lectern are much more recent. Steel plaques on both read to Gervinus Van Loren in gratitude for his assistance in the closing of The Winding Stair. E. Abney Hastings, Nocturnal Secretary, 1928. Okay, and here we will do The Deaths of the Moon, a historical tract on various forms of survival after death. I actually think Pro is the example that I gave for you as well, Oswin, in terms of someone who I think probably like has reset and is happy having reset, but again, the idea that you don't have to in the game. Actually, with that in mind, I mean, I know it's a little bit of a smaller audience tonight, so if you would like, if we want to sort of chat lore stuff or some specifics about the game, you're two, streamers I'm actually quite fond of, and I know I at least enjoy seeing you play the game. So if there's anything about the setting or the lore or like just general questions you have, I actually don't mind being a little more direct in this this stream in terms of just chatting a little bit about some of the things. Like specifically, like here's a good example. If you've ever seen and wondered, so some of the fun of this is just figuring this out from the fragments of the book. But for instance, when we talk about the Edge, all conquest occurs at the Edge. One who dwells there is blind and cannot be wounded. Another is strong and grows stronger. Edge is the principle of battle and of struggle. There's actually 2 specific people that are being referred to when they talk about the one who dwells there is blind and cannot be wounded. Another is strong and grows stronger. And like, I am actually happy. I'm normally kind of coy in terms of how I answer some of this stuff on stream, because to a certain extent, I think some of the fun of these games can be puzzling it out yourself and sort of realizing certain things over time. But on the other hand, I can also appreciate that sometimes holding too much back can be a point of frustration. So if there were any lore questions of that, it actually feels like tonight might be a good night to do that. Just because, like, at this point, anything I can do to keep myself going and not get too sleepy is nice. On the other hand, if you just want to hang out and listen to a strange Canadian accent. Oh, actually, sorry. That is one thing I really liked. The place where I went, I did run into a gentleman who I can't remember the exact line. It was like, "Y'all from Canada, aren't you? I can tell by your accents." Oh, sorry, no. I can tell because you have an accent. To which, obviously, no one speaks unaccented anything. But let us say that I believe most Canadians would consider the one who says y'all to be speaking perhaps a more heavily accented version of English. It's really fun, though. Mr. Kill, Ryan Spry doesn't mind stopping for a gossip. I don't know if I had the least... I don't know if I had the least noticeable Canadian accent, but my coworker was like totally outed as a... Oh, that's great. My coworker was definitely outed as the Canuck. Honey Haunted Pumpkin Pie. Harvey Hattington, perennially suspicious of the Blomberende kind and their cuckoo honey, nevertheless championed pumpkin pie made with cuckoo honey as the herald of savor. Moth, nectar. Okay, I gotta add this to the... Oh, and this counts as a main... You can have Honey Haunted Pumpkin Pie as a main course. Let me add this to the Excel sheet. You do, Oswin. You will start seeing more evidence of it the further you get into the house. I can tell you the specific room where it starts getting really clear about it, but I think specifically the question you were asking is more of an existence question. And yes, absolutely, it will give you enough information to see whether or not your suspicions were correct. So I'm just going to double check here. So we've got Edge 2, Forge 1, Heart 2, no Winter, no Grail, 1 Knock, 3 Scale, no Sky, no Moon, 2 Nectar, 3 Moth. So I'm just going to copy this line. You've been pretending that the kills are secretly trying to take over the house by being caretakers and inviting librarians who require their help and using the fire as a distraction. Oh, I hope this wound up in the sheet. Nope. Okay. That's more like it. I really do like the icon for this. But where am I going to be able to put this thing? No room. I don't think there's any hope here. So the thing is, the more weird places I put food, the more likely I am to lose it. So I'm going to move this to... Flood Gallery temporarily. Oh, this isn't that bad. I think I'm just gonna keep opening packages for the rest of the day. So something abandoned, crack open the container, delight in your discovery. Okay, let's see what we've got here. The Singlefoot Songs. Father Stanislav John Schaller, priest and diplomat, writes of his time on the slopes of Haushan, near the Grove of Green Immortals, but never too near. Schaller's relations with the grove are cautious. It's a library of the tree, but under the hand of the hour named Applebright. In time, however, Schaller comes to be more sympathetic to the Applebright, which he suggests causes harm only when so invited. The Singlefoots of the title are one-horned, one-footed hill things with sweet but powerful voices, powerful enough to open the mountain. The Singlefoots sometimes trample pilgrims, sometimes heal them, sometimes coerce them to enter the mountain and become Singlefoots. Schaller explains that when he found this last becoming too tempting, he decided to return to his homeland. Savage Hymn, a music that urges valor and violence. The Perugian Diaries. In 1907, at the age of 18, Christopher Lopoli left Strathcoyne's household to study theology at the University of Perugia in Italy, enrolling under the name Christopher Strathcoyne. For 4 years, since his adoption from a Bristol orphanage, Lopoli served as Strathcoyne's pupil and protege, but his relationship with this austere and secretive man was always complicated. His journal confides, "I still think Fraser's intentions are good, certainly he agrees, but I never understood the final goal of his investigations. He was never prepared to enlighten me, and good intentions or not, I can no longer bear this dream of eyes. We've agreed to part, almost amicably." Lopoli left Perugia in 1909 without completing his degree. He had long lost interest in his studies, and the latter half of the journal is concerned with his studies of Umbrian folk songs, and notes towards his own compositions, which are of widely varying quality. One of the better ones, In the Marshes of Night, suggests he visited the site of Old Lake Fucinus near Ortuccio. I'm trying to remember if we've got just verse or not. Oops. Yeah, with the... Oh, sorry, it wasn't just verse, it was radical measure. Yes, so there we go. Yes, so we have radical measure and radical measure Taylor's version. But we haven't read them yet. The Deaths of the Moon, a historical tract on various forms of survival after death. When the heart no longer beats, the grail may keep the spirit in the body, and an appetite is intended to sustain. Alukites are the best known, but not the only of this nature. This is the waning moon mode. The full moon mode is the intensification of one element of the soul to a point where ordinary sustention is unstable. Our protector, the generous of hosts, began of this nature, and its generosity remains ungentle. It is possible for the body's health or the heart's core to outpace the other elements, so that a static mode becomes impossible and growth proceeds in dramatic stages until balance remanifests. So for those of you wondering what this means, refer to the gross letter that we read a couple of streams ago. Salt, sea spray, depth sorrow. All right, and better now. So we really kind of want to figure out what we want to do for the rest of the day. Do I have a favorite room in the house? That's a great question. So, as a devoted follower of Lantern, I do feel that the nave of the Abbey Church would be a good one. So I don't think I'm going to give you a direct yes to this, Oswin. I think I'm probably gonna give a few selections for different reasons, but there are definitely some fun ones. So, the nave of the Abbey Church, and honestly, other than the whole like stereotypical lantern thing, this is just a very cool looking room, right? The stained glass of the hours, what is it? The Gods from Light. Nave of the Abbey Church. For 1,000 years, the unconquered sun has been worshipped here in all his aspects, though since the heresies of the intercalate, many of those aspects are considered distinct hours in their own right, and the sun's death and birth are now celebrated. The Abbey Church used to be more golden, but many of the valuables were lost at the Abbey's dissolution, including the original stained glass. These magnificent windows are of recent manufacture, financed by the 8th Librarian Green, who was a believer of the Second Dawn variety. And the various descriptions here. The Watchman, stained glass window, the Watchman, the way is lit for the willing and for the unwilling. The Menascate, what is within, without, what is without, within. Sun and Rags, when it ends, it will be a beautiful ending. And that which is not needed, that shall be quenched. And then, of course, there's the various items. So the Sol Invictus symbol, the internal symbol of the unconquered sun, all the way back to the Shadowless Empire, even through the wild heresies of the intercalate. We've got the instrument. One must practice slowly, then more slowly, and finally slowly. Camille Saint-Saëns. The solar altar. The sun in splendor is the hour which was sundered, the hour which is not conquered, the hour from which proceed all other hours of the day, or so the church teaches. And the uncomfortable seat shaped to assure the attention of the faithful. So yeah, lots of interesting things there. Now, one interesting room overall, and this was one that I needed to... So this is also a room that I'm really interested in, and I think the description is one of the things I like the most about the Weather Factory games. So the chancel of the Abbey Church. The Church of the Unconquered Sun acknowledges only a handful of hours. The Sun in Rags, or Splendor, the Menascate, the Madrigad, the Watchman, and, reluctantly, the Wolf Divided. If anybody would like to know why reluctantly, I can answer that. Any other so-called hours must be lesser powers, wicked impostors, or superstitions. So the Church denies 2 of the 3 hours of the chancel, and yet it's the chancel who are said to determine which of their peers qualify as hours. That's theology for you. Abbot Geoffrey decreed that all 3 should be venerated in this holiest of rooms. To avoid actual heresy, he would not permit any of the 3 to be named. That's theology too. So, first of all, this is a fairly deep bit of lore. I believe the chancel is unique to Book of Hours, and it gives you a hint, but nothing direct in terms of the hours of the chancel. It tells you a little bit about some of the hours in the setting, and it introduces the idea of the or maybe it doesn't introduce the idea of the chancel, depending on what books you've read. But it points you towards saying that one of these things is a solar hour, and it doesn't say which one. If you look at the altar, we do not name these hours, but we acknowledge that together they are the chancel, the cruciate, and the road. And the aspects are moth, winter, and edge. And there's some other points in the game where you can find out sort of the identity of a few of these things, but it gives you a bit of a puzzle to think through. But I do actually find the line here quite a funny one. That's theology for you, but also that's theology too. And I think one of the real strengths of the writing in this, like I definitely go clown mode pretty quickly. And I don't know, there's some fun in that. But one of the things that I really like is that I think it's quite obvious that the writer behind this game is quite funny. Like I know, having played a few of the games now, that he's definitely capable of writing some very funny material. But unlike someone like me, like I think if I have like one good joke, I'm never going to shut up about it. The one thing that's very nice is that it never like gets in the way of the game, right? It's allowed to be funny, but it never falls to slapstick, and it never overdoes it. So that's another room, mostly for the specific way that the chancel of the Abbey Church has been written, that I like. There's a little bit of interesting lore in the stores. At the time of the Prayer Book Rebellion in 1549, Hendrik used this room as a prison cell for unfortunate locals, including the cunning man and rebel ringleader Red William, who had boasted of the curse he placed on Hendrik's heirs. There will be no seventh of his line. There was a story told in Brandkrug village that Hendrik came to speak with the imprisoned William in person. There will be no second of your line, he told him, and had him gelded there in this very cell and cast into the darkness of the caves below the house. There is another story that Eva de Wolf once answered an importunate suitor by bringing him here to this room and pointing out a stain upon the stones. So this one is kind of interesting. First of all, you get to learn a little bit about Eva in this. I will note, by the way, that when we're looking at the title, he's got first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh. 6 barons and 1 baroness, and then it switches to librarians, which you will probably want to think a little bit about. Where was I going with this? But yeah, there's actually a little bit more about Red William. So it's a lot of these rooms can be quite interesting just because of a few little ideas that they put in your head, which are usually what will happen is when you have a first impression of something, it's a very reasonable thing to think, and then you read something in the game which will sort of suggest to you that there's something else going on. Usually most of the assumptions get upset. So this is definitely one of these rooms which establishes an idea, and but then there's a little bit more that comes out. And then I think there's something interesting in this room, and then there's something interesting in this room too. So, but I don't want to talk about the ones that are locked away, especially because you'll have a chance to see some of them as well. So yeah, like I said, no one room, but there's definitely a few that I like. I don't know, if I had to pick one though, the nave of the Abbey Church is not a bad one. Now, I was supposed to get my skill leveled up. I think I'm gonna pluck some blue crown. Few flowers flourish in the depths of winter. Blue crown is one of those few. And seems to me like the core and the tryst can be both used to ransack the sea and the moor one more time. And then maybe the last thing that I want to think about is what I want to carry over for the next day. Oh, puffin time, yes. So if I, so we've already got sights and sensations. So one of the things that I was looking to level up was Inks of Revelation. However, the quenchings and quellings doesn't really help here. I was also going to try and level up transformations and liberations, but again, Heart and Winter are the ones that I'm most focused on. Okay, let's take a quick minute here and see what's up. So I want to get to Skola Kosovo at some point. So 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. And under the Nyctodromi wisdom, hang on. Do I not have Sickle and Eclipse? I don't think that's right. There it is. Okay, so Path and Pilgrim, Strings and Songs, Sea Stories. Sickle and Eclipse. Where's Watchman's Paradoxes? Okay. Edict's Liminal, Coil and Chasm. So it seems to me like Disciplines of the Hammer is also an option there. I wonder why I didn't include that. So I'm going to take a quick minute here just to double check my list. Actually, I should do that before... Nah, this'll still... Okay. Okay, so we've got Path and Pilgrim, Strings and Songs, Sickle and... Oh, hang on, Sea Stories. Sickle and Eclipse. So for some reason I skip over Door and Wall. Furs and Feathers. Coil and Chasm is there. Edict's Liminal, we've got Insects and Nectars. And then Sights and Sensations is already spoken for. Okay. So what I'm curious about here is if I've specifically avoided mentioning a few of these. Okay, so this is Horamakastri. Furs and Feathers is Bosk, and Door and Wall is Horamakastri. Then Path and Pilgrim. Okay, so Birdsong, Strings and Songs, also Birdsong. Sea Stories is also Birdsong. Sickle and Eclipse is Preservation. Okay, so for some reason... Oh, I think I remember why. Watchman's Paradoxes. Okay, I definitely know why we did that. Actually, you know what? Watchman's Paradoxes seems like a good one to throw this into. So what I'll do here is I will generate a sky memory. So, and I can do any old one. So I can't remember. I think I was originally looking for a Beguiling Melody. It's the Wind's Ruin. Really didn't make too much use out of Mr. Kill, but that's fine. We'll give him a break. It's a surprisingly productive day. So the only thing, like I wasn't expecting to get the honey haunted pumpkin pie. I would like to learn, so the suspicion that I had was that the soft amber pumpkin somehow had like honey in it. So I wonder if there is a way to combine either cuckoo honey or something along those lines with a pumpkin to make a soft amber pumpkin. A wormy pumpkin. At a glance, it seems uncorrupted, but it's squirming with regrettable visitors. Well, now I'm going to have to try and cook that. Hey, Vesper, how are you doing? Folks, for those of you not familiar with him, what were you playing if you just saved Christmas? From Seasonal Depression. For those of you who do not know Vesper Fortune, a lovely streamer, somebody who gifted... this is like the silliest thing for me to shout him out for, but gifted the Ace Attorney series to the stream, so you can thank him if you hear me screaming out objection later on. He is Home Safety Hotline's new DLC. Interesting. I think you talked about Home Safety Hotline before as well. But I know Oswin will be very happy to for me to mention that he does the talks on the weekend. He gave a talk on the Satanic Panic, very interesting one. I actually didn't get to sit for the whole one, but it was good fun to read. And for those of you, I don't know when Vesper's birthday is, but for those of you looking for a gift, I was looking through the W.W. Norton and Company catalog, and I happen to know that he has a real passion for this subject. And for any of you who would like to gift him a bit of bathroom reading, there you go. Oh, we gotta level this up still. And we use quenching. Hang on. I'm trying to level up Watchman's Paradoxes, but it doesn't have Heart or Winter. They just released it today, and it's about saving the world from the Twilight, or as I call it, Mariah Carey's Uprising. At last, I'm something of an authority in this. Improve the skill to level 6. Alright, so I feel the wormy pumpkin should probably go in this storage. That is clearly a wistful sigh of, oh, I wish I could pick that up. Which is why your audience needs to donate towards your education and interests. The Wind's Ruin, the second volume of the Meditations of Abbot Thomas of the Abbey of the Black Dove. Abbot Thomas speaks of his time as a raider, when his name was not Thomas but Toke, scything the sea, striving for plunder. Abbot Thomas clearly regrets his storm years, and much of the book is taken up with his thoughts on penitence, but there are hints that he also misses those years and the companionship of his sword brother, ship brother, Trygev. Beguiling melody, a sweet enchantment of a song. So yeah, I definitely messed up on picking a memory overnight, but I think I'm just going to stick with it. Now that night has fallen, I can rest and dream on the day's doings. And we'll see where the... We'll see where the day takes us. While we do that, I'm going to see if I can maybe find a suitable alternative. So, Sea Stories doesn't have the heart or winter. Strings and Songs, similar story. Oh no, that has... Oh no, hang on. Strings and Songs does benefit from this. Edict's Liminal does not, and Coil and Chasm doesn't either. Okay, so no, we will level up Strings and Songs instead. My goodness, we've got another raid. We've got Lord Gloom here. Thank you, everybody, for coming in on Lord Gloom's raid as well. I was going to take a break, but I got to keep the people happy. Lord Gloom, I think you were doing Tarkov tonight, weren't you? For those of you not familiar with him, I actually originally found... And Selphea! My God, you're all here. Too many streamers. So Lord Gloom was somebody... Oh, Stardew you were playing. So Lord Gloom is somebody who I think found me through Cobalt Core, but did a wonderful job with that game. But we have actually wound up talking about sort of Cultist Simulator and Book of Hours. But I keep actually forgetting. So Lord Gloom has been doing more War Thunder lately. And I keep pigeonholing him into Tarkov, and it's mostly just because he's one of the few streamers I've actually like regularly watched play Escape from Tarkov. But very good to see you, and I hope you are doing well. For those of you that like watching Lord Gloom play card games, I will point out that the expansion for this game is coming out on the 26th. I'm currently playing it, but you all can pester him to play the lovely new haunted house game, now with cooking. We made a honey-haunted pumpkin pie. On top of that, we have got Selphea. Now, I actually had a fun experience with... with Selphea today, because I think when I got home... So my flight was delayed. So I got home and saw that she was streaming Sunhaven, which is now the My Time at Sandrock of video games. But no talk of ghosts. I'm currently in a creepy house. A creepy house with like journals in the walls and cups with faces in them. So actually, I'm kind of curious where you get that, Tube55. So you say you find it interesting that the villagers of Brandkrug have seen more of Hush House than most people in the past, more than even the Suppression Bureau. So are you talking about this idea that we're using the villagers to open up the different rooms in terms of them seeing the house? Because I know the description of the kitchen and such sort of suggests that the villagers will like bring things for the librarian, but it doesn't always suggest that they're walking around. But I think I get what you're saying. I just wanted to follow up and see if there was maybe another insight that you'd had. No, I didn't say hello, something just because like I really need it. I was going straight to work after the very next day, so and early, so I needed to go in. But what was funny was because I put my computer to sleep when I got, so like basically I got home, unpacked my suitcase, had all of the did all my stuff. I was like, okay, I'll take a quick look, and then I saw that you were doing Sunhaven. I'm like, oh, I'd really like to watch that, but I know that if I sit, and particularly for a streamer like Selphea, if I sit down and quote unquote just say hi, it's going to be 4 o'clock in the morning, and at that point, maybe I shouldn't even just go to sleep, and I needed the sleep. So I decided to be an adult and not open an entertainment product, mere moments before going to sleep. But what happened was when I turned on my computer again when I got home, I've got Twitch, and for whatever reason, Twitch did not do its auto update in terms of viewers. So I saw like Selphea, Sunhaven, like one of 2 streams that was on the sidebar, and I was like, oh, I finally get to catch Selphea. This is wonderful. And I clicked it, and then it was like an empty page. And I was like, oh, right, because that was the stream that was on when I put the computer to sleep. So I tried. I technically did visit your channel, just not when I think you were probably asleep at that time. So anyway, let's see what we got. So another quartz chunk. Ice Rock Winking Light. The skill is now level 6. Its power aspects have also increased. To mix the rarest colors, a merciless detachment is required. And more sand. It's everyone's favorite. Few flowers flourish in the depths of winter. Blue Crown is one of those few. Alright, so I've kind of have my work cut out for me, but I think we'll be able to make something of this. But not until the morning. Pro's got to be semi-responsible and go to bed. I'll keep the stream open though because I need to move a bunch of stuff from OneDrive and it's taking forever and your PC will be on. Well, thank you very much, Pro. I always appreciate the concurrent view. I am glad that you are getting a proper sleep. I may do a shorter stream tonight just because I need to get some sleep. But for those of you, especially because we've had a couple of hosts, I do want to point out, first of all, if you like Book of Hours, Prosciutto Fist has done Book of Hours in the past. But also for those of you that just like kind of just chatting streams and such, Pro has been doing a bunch of history streams. They've been very entertaining. And she just does a bunch of variety. Again, I have a lot of fun hanging out in her channel. She also has a wonderful mod friend and co-broadcaster, Viridian. But it's Pro's the one in the channel right now. So definitely, and especially if you weren't here for the earlier shout out, please do check out Prosciutto Fist, lovely broadcaster. Who does play this game along with a whole bunch of others. But have a lovely evening, and we'll see you in the next one. For the rest of us, what do we do in the morning? So I think the idea of hosting the salon in winter, that's a little too much to hope for. So I think the next thing we could maybe do is think about how we'll make the most of the time of division. So I'll actually start by committing the... I'll start by committing Sights and Sensations to the Hushery branch. To mix the rarest colors, a merciless detachment is required. The end. The artist knows their every work could be improved. The artist understands perfect work can never be completed. Perfection exists only as absence. Hushery understands this. So this has now unlocked the bright art. So if I have something to go to 7, 8, or 9, we can gain the benefits from that. I also can keep moving up along the Hushery wisdom, but the need for that isn't quite as high. So what I want to start doing now is focusing on Nyctodromy and eventually Skolakosophy. And I actually wouldn't hurt to do a Bosk 4 just so we can get access to the preservation branch as well, but I'm going to save all of that for later. So we do have a little bit of a game plan in terms of leveling up strings and songs using quenchings and quellings. So let me actually move some things around so that I'll remember to do that. And then the next one that we'll be moving up is the time of division. So that we can use to... Yeah, we can do surgeries and exsanguinations. Or sorry, that's giving me heart and knock. So I suppose I can just keep moving up strings and songs if it really comes down to that. It's probably the most likely candidate that I have. So let's do that. Okay, so I will first of all bring a thunder... Well, we'll see what the weather brings first, and we'll talk to Mr. Kill again just because he's a good source of memories. Mr. Kill always enjoys a chance to catch up with me. Mr. Kill can always spare a few hours to help a friend. It'll only take 10 seconds, so I think I'll restore the whist first and then put that on the earning treadmill. And we're not really going to need that much in terms of memories, so I will start with the beachcombing early on. Gather in winter, rhyme rims the moor tarns. So first of all, we want to see what the weather brings. I can still check out a... Something small and curious. Crack open the container. Delight in your discovery. If it comes down to it, too, I should be able... Ooh, fog. Okay. I've carried a memory like a flambeau safe through the mazes of night. This will complete once dawn has come. So, after a minute, I will... Ooh, yeah, I kind of messed up in terms of the timing there. So, to shorten the time that it will take, if we do the time of division, this is just kind of a dress rehearsal for something I'm going to do. So we'll take the core, we take quenchings and quellings, and that one I believe is a Mandaic text, or Deep Mandaic. So this is a 14 text for which we need... Oh, okay. Yeah, I can still get away with it too. So for this one, we will, I guess, get the storm memory, although we may get that from Mr. Kill anyway. I was thinking I would use the Swaddled Thunder, but the catch about the Swaddled Thunder is that it's locked behind 53 seconds of consideration. So, as a second best, oops. We will read Apollo and Marsyas or something related. Let's do... Yeah, we'll read Apollo and Marsyas. I've already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. Now, the tricky part for me is deciding whether or not I want to try another book, because we should be getting 2 memories out of the time of division, which I'll be using to boost up the strings and songs, but it's not that hard to get 2 memories. So it does sort of invite the question, do I just want to leave it there? Do I maybe want to try some of these other books? If I were to try strings and songs, I'm looking for Heart and Sky. So Enbury and Lapdary would help with that. Oh, this would be a big one. Sights and sensations. So this is a big one because it gives me a... Swaddled has always been 30 seconds, but what is my consider verb doing right now? It's about the decision that I made. It's not about the time that it takes for the Swaddled Thunder. Yeah, so there's a bit of an argument here for me to put some effort into leveling up transformations and liberations so that I can read glimmerings. So that would suggest Moth and Forge memories, which I can get from Skin of Silver, but that has the same problem. I think this is a moon. I mean, I guess the Anburian Lapdary could be used to improve transformations and liberations, but that's might have already been spoken for. It's interesting that I've sort of trapped myself into these. I thought I had more options than I really do. History to Eternity. I feel like I should have more Moth, but... Yeah, I'm getting more and more convinced that I think I want to put some more points into transformations and liberations. This is something that'll go into either illumination or ithistry. Oh, hell yeah. Okay. So, yes, let's start working on this one. Now, I think I still need a memory. I need something with a memory with 2 Moth to pull this thing off. So Rights the Roots is probably my best bet right now. We'd of course use a Tryst here. And then if I want to push this up a little bit further, we can add the Shears of the Sisterhood. I could also add Catwink to bring it up to 7, but it's still the same problem. Oh, interesting. Okay, nope. So I need to go even further. So it'd probably be a combination of Catwink and... No, not Catwink. Well, I definitely don't have Uzalt. Okay. I might have painted myself into a corner on History to Eternity. Let's go back to our considerations. So again, in a pinch, I can use Ava's Treasury to give myself a little bit of a boost to transformations and liberations, but I guess the funny thing there is that's not quite enough to get me where I need to go. Well, no, that technically does, because then I use a name day riddle. But I think maybe another plan of attack would be to find something with a heavy moon or knock, because we have the foggy day to work with. Sorry to just sort of sit and ponder like this, but I do need to think. I definitely need to think this through. I also don't want to get too crazy on the knock stuff because 14's already pretty high and Horns and Ivories is my highest level. So really, realistically, we only have 8 to work with. Okay, well, let's roll this back. Let's just say we're going to read Ava's Treasury. We will use Sights and Sensations for that. I can master this mystery, enough sky to match mystery sky. And then I suppose the question is, will I have enough time in the day? I really don't think I will to read From History to Eternity. So I suppose we start working on improving transformations and liberations in the spring. Mr. Kill can always spare a few hours to help a friend. Mr. Kill, Ryan Spry, doesn't mind stopping for a gossip. And we'll take all that money that we earned yesterday to start by restoring the Whist. It is winter and the storms have tightened the seas. I'm sitting before the fire in the sweet bones with a beef and potato pasty in one hand and a hot ale posset in the other. So I guess I'm kind of wasting the fog in this case, but it's not... doesn't quite align with what I'm trying to do tonight. Dead men don't tell no bloody tales. Well, who'd listen? So there's that moth that I needed. I could take a chance. You know what? This is a little silly for me to do, but let's actually take a chance with From History to Eternity. So ideally, we'll get a Element of the Soul request. Perhaps you provided Moth, but not enough to match Mystery Moth. If you're lucky, you might still succeed. A yellowing newspaper. Now, I think we already have one of these. Yeah. It's dated the year that Hush House was abandoned. Okay, so I don't really have anything to do with the consider verb anymore, given that I already have my game plan for... Or hang on. Yes, I did, so... Apollo and Marsyas, the libretto of a lost opera concerning the contest between Apollo and Marsyas and its tragic outcome. The librettist is identified only by their initials. In the original myth, Marsyas lost the musical contest and was flayed by Apollo, who later regretted it. In this version, Marsyas' skin has a further history. The skin of Marsyas gives oracles and is later smuggled to Phrygia, where the priestesses of Cybele use it for a drum. At the climax, the striking of the drum drives would-be violators of the priestesses to suicidal madness. The opera ends with a wistful hymn from the youngest priestess on the beauty of mountain pines. There are storms great enough to shake the moon from the sky and one's thoughts from one's skull. Okay, so I need to find a desk with heart, seeing as I've used Natan's desk. So here we take the core, the storm, quenchings and quellings. Oops. Deep Mandaic. So we're one short, and the solution we get from that is a good old-fashioned mop and bucket. Galvanized steel enriched with the stains of a dozen years of methodical mopping. I do not want to brew a calming cure. Can master this mystery. Enough heart to match mystery heart. So I kind of have my work cut out for me tonight, but not the one I was looking for. Better now. So here we'll just keep using the whisk to generate money. We're not really desperate for it, but I have also done a whole bunch of shopping trips. So I figure, especially with all the cooking stuff, being able to, just buy a whole bunch of one thing is it's not a bad option to have. Oh boy. No more room. Out. I think we're just gonna hold for a minute here. Okay, so we've got soul, stuff also things, and art. It's educational, so if I'm willing to wait for the 2, I can save myself the tryst. When something is given to the sea, it rarely returns, although of course I did. See, I think I'm going to see what the first opportunity is. Yeah, it's not that big of a hardship to give up the soul here, so... Ava's Treasury. Ava DeWolf, last of the Brandkrugs, discusses the occult and aesthetic properties of jewels and other precious metals. Black nephrite and scolecite for nowhere, orichalc and amber for yeas, amethyst of the night key for the spider door. Sorry, amethyst for the night key of the spider door. Ava points out, bitterly, that there is no shortage of uplifting parables and proverbs about the saving graces of a flaw in a jewel, but that no one, not jeweler, not priest, not hour, has ever found a way to repair such a flaw. Okay, so the foresight will help in leveling up the transformations and liberations, but of course we also want to shelve this properly, so I always liked Ava's Treasury as a book. This should be it, yep. Okay, so if I'm moving this, we need 2. It's a forge and a moth, so I will need to generate a moth somehow, although presumably a conversation with Mr. Kill is the solution to that. From History to Eternity, a contraband manual of the Inks of Revelation, the author explains in a brief foreword that she is a high-ranking officer of an agency of the duties, and that though she supports its mission, she has concerns about the long-term consequences of its work. All histories braided into a golden loop, a shining ascent to eternity. I'd never imagined I could be afraid that there might be too few truths. I could be wrong, but I'd like to leave at least one door ajar. Ichor Auroral can be brewed into an Encastum Terminale associated with the second history, using Inks of Revelation techniques with Rose aspect. The author warns that this is exceptionally difficult since these techniques aren't aligned with Rose, but that's why I'm hoping the door will stay ajar, even once all the others are closed. I wish you luck. So this is actually the reason why, as much as I like to have a higher level ink skill, it's not necessarily one that I'm going to be pushing to 10 anymore, because if you think about the real benefits to the ink skills, it's the fact that, yes, you can get the Encastum out of them, but very often the second one is something that isn't directly relevant to the it's not directly relevant to the aspects that it will have. So what I would want to do if I wanted to try and brew the Porphyryne, it's fine to use, like Inks of Revelation's perfectly legitimate to do that, but what I would want to focus on a little bit more would be getting my FET leveled up and being able to, being able to bring more more rows to the problem rather than getting Inks of Revelation to 10. Because technically, Inks of Revelation level 1 and Inks of Revelation level 10 would give you the exact same benefit towards brewing that particular ink. So I will adjust my behavior accordingly. So I've got 3 lessons that I want to try and deal with tonight. And the intuition gives me moon and rose, which doesn't really help with what I need. An afternoon spent profitably reading newspapers to the curious, writing affectionate letters for the lonely, steering farmers to the requirements of the Ministry of Agriculture. Thank you very much for resubscribing, Algrins. I should caution you, now that you've put your money in, no refunds, I'm going to take a break. I have been wanting to take a break for a little bit, but let's make some progress before going ahead. I was telling folks, so I was originally possibly not going to stream tonight, just because I've only recently gotten back from your beloved homeland. But I am feeling quite sleepy. But let's see if we can make a little more progress tonight. Okay, so the main focus right now is to try and get transformations and liberations leveled up. I've got 3 skills to do that with, but the question is, where do I get the memories? So one easy thing I can do is actually consider items in the house. And I remember there was one painting that Oswin looked at the description for, but I don't think actually looked at the painting. So this will give you all something to think about. The boy prays. There is no sign of a boy in this distorted, menacing image, and no one... Oh, hang on. No, that's not a touch, so never mind. Let's investigate a chair instead. The delightful repose placed by the Curia of the Isle to allow a rest before an ascent or after a descent. Investigate the object. You won't use this up or consume it by doing this. So we'll save the boy praise for later. Men don't tell no bloody tales? Well, who'd listen? Hindsight, some things we can only really understand when they're gone. Lots of winter. What's this down the back of the cushions? A small and unexpected treasure. House folklore claims that Ambrose Westcott suffered his final apoplexy on this sofa after a particularly hasty trample up and down the stairs to argue with visiting priests. A bronze spintria? What's that down in the back of the cushions? A small and unexpected treasure. So now we've learned some Westcott lore and enriched ourselves doing it. Oh, hang on! But I didn't get the touch. Damn it! Alright, we'll use Ambrose's favorite chair then. Also, I seem to have forgotten that I wanted to level up strings and songs at some point. So that's heart and... Nope. So it might be an idea for me to actually spend the time restoring the elements of the soul before I go any further on this. The time of division, in which Amira Zara prophesies the events later known as the intercalate, when the sun and the hour called sun and splendor will be divided. The sun will be divided that it might not sire children. Still, its children shall be 4 in number, and its children shall be 7 in number, and its children shall also be numberless. The numberless shall open the way for the 7, and the 7 shall consume the 4. Amira prophesies 4 great wars before the second dawn, when the sun and splendor shall rise again. She cautions, sunrise is blood, and I foretell now that the sun shall rise from blood, yet not the color of the blood, nor the hour of night. She includes a rite that she speculates will be necessary for the second dawn. This gives us a pattern that at least lets us level up transformations, surgeries, and exsanguinations, so I definitely have more than I bargained for in terms of stuff to level up. But let's run with this. So, after 4.8 seconds, I will use the metal to... actually, okay, I should take a minute here. So it talks... So I'll be honest with you here, Toop. There's a few different ways to read it, and the tricky part that I run into... So actually, I'd put it to you this way. I think one of the wars that it's describing would be like with the leashed flame, right? And that wouldn't be a worm war. But of course, it would seem that the Great War probably has a... I don't know if that counts as a worm war. I think it would. And given the year that this takes place in, and sort of the direction where a lot of these things are going, there's obviously another war coming. But again, its relation to the worms, I'm not so sure about. Sorry, I guess it'd be the War of the Road, sorry, that I was thinking of. So, my read of the lore is that there's probably enough space for it to not be a worm war. But it's actually kind of hard to sell that one for the simple reason that kind of the point... I guess the things that are pointing to the particular war that this game seems to be anticipating and the setting has been building up to probably suggests that. So maybe not. I'd say maybe the text itself doesn't, but the text combined with the time that this game is set in might suggest that. That's my read anyway. Obviously, I don't mean to suggest I am anything even remotely close to the authority on these. Okay, we'll give it the 0.6 seconds, and I think I'm going to try and get as many... We'll get a Trist back just because that'll help me level up the transformations and liberations. I think I might have worked myself into a corner here. Ambrose's favorite chair, somewhat pocked by cigar burns. Ambrose Westcott was a capacious gentleman, and he ensured the springs in this his fortress was calibrated to bear any conceivable weight. 200 years on, the springs still do their duty. Touch. Craft is learnt through the tips of the fingers. Okay. First things first, let's level up the transformations and liberations. We can do that with... I'll hang on to Inks of... Or I'll use Inks of Revelation just because Anburian Lapidary has other uses. So, and for this I'll use Foresight for sure. I guess the Touch is the least costly to get back. I'm no expert, but I'm no dabbler either. Right, I did want to work out what I was going to be working towards. So, need three forge moth. Then 4 forge moth. With the surgeries and exsanguinations, I think that might have actually been going towards strings and songs. Okay, so let's say that we do strings and songs. We really just need 4. Okay, so with that in mind, 2 for strings and songs. Okay, and actually the strings and songs is a slight preference on my part. Just because that does start putting us down the Nyctodromy path. So we'll use this for transformations and liberations. Okay, I think we can work with this. The only thing is I'm kind of overweight on the whist right now. So, let's work on the heart and sky. Now, this one's actually pretty straightforward for the simple reason that I have so many of these songbooks. So I need a total of 5 heart and sky to work with. So we'll take the Perugian Diaries. Actually, sorry, it's heart, sky. So I've got heart, sky. I wish I could make more use of some of these. Okay, but yeah. There's the one. Two. Actually, I should count this as 3 of 5. So the question would be, do I really want to try Solace and Storm right now? And I think the answer to that is yes. Okay, so that's the strings and songs spoken for. My next would be for transformations and liberations. So that's 3 forge and moth, of which I already have 1. So from that, and again, ideally we do something that can't be overwritten by Mr. Kill. All of that can be overwritten by Mr. Kill. The pattern is the one that's already, or that it hasn't already been used. Okay. I guess we take our best shot then. So I'd say Impulse and Foresight. assuming I can find it. I think this is... No, this is Satisfaction. And then we have a whisk left over. I'm really not sure what I want to do with that. I'm already restoring the Tryst here, but I guess I can turn this into... Well, we'll see. We'll maybe turn it into a memory. Some of this also depends on what Mr. Kill gives me. Yes, but again, first of all, I don't want to be told how to play the game. And second of all, what am I using my consider verb for right now? The skill is now level 3. Its power aspects also increased. So, if I recall correctly, we don't have... I think we're one short on the things that I need for the... Well, I could give up the Curious Hunch, but I'm not going to. So now would be the time for me to pick a memory. I think I can let it run a little bit longer. Okay, so Mr. Kill didn't really give me anything that I need for today. Better now. I think I will... no, we don't need to... Okay, so let's assume that I don't get anything else from Mr. Kill tonight. I will be leveling up the transformations and liberations. I think I've overdone it. Okay, so transformations and liberations will use the metal to get to 4. And I think that's all we have. Well, we have the Anbury and Lapidary as well, but I can't see how I would get 4 in the time that I have available. So we'll say we're settled for that. Beguiling Melody will bring up the string, well, and related, we'll bring up the strings and songs. And we already worked out all the memories for that. Okay, yeah, so I mean, really, if I want to try anything, it's to make the... It's to make the transformations go up. But I'm still not convinced that that can happen. I would need to make 4 memories with 2 elements of the soul. So we'll kick the can down the road, make some money, and go to the beach. Alright, the Perugian Diaries. In 1907, at the age of 18, Christopher Olapoli left Strathcoyn's household to study theology at the University of Perugia in Italy, enrolling under the name Christopher Strathcoyn. For 4 years since his adoption from a Bristol orphanage, Olapoli served as Strathcoyn's pupil and protege, but his relationship with this austere and secretive man was always complicated. His journal confides, "I still think Fraser's intentions are good. Certainly he agrees, but I never understood the final goal of his investigations. He was never prepared to enlighten me, and good intentions or not, I can no longer bear the stream of eyes. We've agreed to part almost amicably." Olapoli left Perugia in 1909 without completing his degree. He had long lost interest in his studies, and the latter half of his journal is concerned with his studies of Umbrian folk songs and notes towards his own compositions, which are of widely varying quality. One of the better ones, In the Marshes of Night, suggests he visited the site of Old Lake Fucinus near Ortuccio. Unhatched hymns. Hymns attributed to St. Lucia the Eyeless, patron of glassworkers, and name of the hour called Menascate. The hymns venerate every sanctioned hour, celebrating them as the sun undivided, but also suggesting that each hour may become the next, madrigad to watchman, watchman to wolf, and so on. The hymn of the phases celebrates the Menascate from whom we do not turn, for the truth which is beauty, the beauty which is truth, and the perfect balance between the two. The hymn of the Reflections more puzzlingly celebrates the Menascate as sister of Janus, mother of shadow, whose visage wondrous in emptiness can reveal all truths. Music that urges valor and violence. In the Malory, a lively account of the creation of each jewel at the world's beginning. Lively, yes, but almost entirely nonsense. Pearl, the tears of the forgotten moon, caught by the lionsmith in his net. Ruby, the blood of the first bird, sung by the lionsmith's hammer. The author is either terribly misinformed of the nature of the hours, or one begins to suspect intentionally throwing up a smokescreen to confuse seekers of the invisible arts, but there are some useful crumbs of fact to be picked out of the daft and gaping cracks. On Wit's Forge and Fire Blast, Meanings, Press and Screw, Coleridge on Donne's Poetry. What does not bark? Alexander Probst writes rarely of Calyptra, a law or principle or society which prevents the dissemination of dangerous knowledge. Calyptra, like the planet that occludes the star or the Doylean dog that fails to bark, can be identified only by its absence. Even the name, I think, must be a mask. Calyptra is said to make exceptions specifically for the libraries of the Watchman's Tree. Does it make those exceptions so that the hours can make use of them? The Orchid Transfiguration's Noon, the third volume of a compilation of quasi-Rosicrucian allegories, supposedly by Robert Flood. This is in the original Latin. A long dialogue between the Mountain Mother and the Vigilant Storm describes the ways in which both mountains and storms end, and the protections they can use against those ends. But we must use the knife, said the lion-throned one, the noose, the flame, the waking word against those who have passed the three-valve door, and so none may pass. That is our law and the law of the sun. And the Shaven-Lock Tantra, also known as the one who has shaven his hair, this, the story goes, is the lore that even the shape-changing Vanras rejected. The Tantra speaks glowingly of those who are prepared to abandon their old self to seek a new and higher self. It warns that once the change has truly begun past the third mark, a return to the old self is dangerous and painful. Whisper your secrets into the earth, burn them in fire, scatter them in the sea. Still they will cling to your hair, the Tantra cautions. It provides an occult riddle that it claims is sometimes the answer to the riddle of the Hunter's Gate. Okay. So I'm going to clear out the transformations and liberations first. And I think at this point it's really just a matter of letting the timer go down, but I will still keep talking with Mr. Kill just so I can have, just more to choose from when we cross over. Okay, the skill is now level 4. Its power aspects have also increased. I think I should probably just wait for everything to finish up. Let's go for strings and songs now. It doesn't really matter which one we use, but... let's do the Storm and the Solace. I'm no expert, but I'm no dabbler either. Improve the skill to level 3. Night has fallen, dawn will come soon. So in 12 seconds we will get the last memory from Mr. Kill, and then we can decide what we want to take overnight with us. Okay, another gossip. Last but not least, strings and songs, cheerful ditty, beguiling memory. Well, yeah. Wait a minute. Okay. I was under the impression that the fear was being highlighted there, and I needed to completely reconsider my understanding of the game. Crisis averted. Another fruit plucked from knowledge's tree. Improve the skill to level 4. So We've got what we needed for today. The remaining question would be, what do I want to carry overnight? Now, realistically, none of these are something that I really want to take with me, simply because I'm focused on leveling up transformations and liberations and strings and songs right now. It's not even for any particular love of strings and songs. It was just the one that was available. So this would be either Heart, Sky, Forge, or Moth. And of course, if I had any of those would already be, they would be used right now. Stolen Secret is somewhat more rare than the others, but the challenge here is that it's a knock and a moon, so it doesn't work with the Librarian's Quarters. I guess for lack of any better choice, I'll take the Intuition, but now that night has fallen, I can rest and perhaps stream on the day's doings. This is really just a because I can rather than a specific need. And I will confess, I'm debating, so if I do a break, then there's only, a few more minutes before I finish the stream, so it may be, there's a side of me that says finishing the season may be enough, and then I just call it there, but it doesn't have to be that clean of a sweep. Maybe we'll just finish my skills and then call it. Okay, the skill's now level 4, its power aspects have also increased. So I can at least try and rearrange things again. Let's say... Oh, now I remember. I was going to try and bring Inks of Power and Inks of Revelation up to 3 because I didn't have any other place to put them. Okay. For present purposes... Actually, I need to do that one more time. This is eventually going to be level 7. Oh, hang on. Strings and Songs is where I want it to be. The harmonies of the lower skies are here reproduced. The passage, words are the way through the sky, and a song without words is no song at all. Nyctodromy is the wisdom of ways. So this is nice. This is my first Shapt. So the aim here is going to be to get a level 5, and ideally we'll get a level 5 through these two, but we'll see. We'll see what the season brings. Obviously, if we get Numa, that's going to be a whole other set of problems. Memories fade, assistance departs, but the soul is refreshed. Let's see what the season brings first. We'll still talk with Mr. Well, no, we'll wait on the weather. Is it really still winter? Fair enough. Mr. Kill always enjoys the chance to catch up with me. Okay, I will accept another... Hello, Decree, how are you doing? I will accept another day in the season. It's a little different from what I was expecting, but... So, still working on transformations and liberations. Now, I don't really have to... So, what I would think about right now with regards to transformations and liberations is what are the components that I can get that don't get overwritten by the visitor. And in this case, that would be the pattern. I believe that is the only one relevant to this particular skill. The other thing I could do, of course, is to take Anbury... Or no, actually, I can't take Anbury and Lapidary to increase Inks of Revelation, because that one's got the Forge. That's fine. So, yeah, we'll grab a... We'll grab a pattern to get started, and then we'll see what the day brings. Actually, I feel like we've read this recently, so against Vitruvius instead. Yeah, I got a late start. I won't be on for that much longer, Cree, but I'm very happy to see you as well. You must be looking forward to the release of this. I know the 26th. So, given the amount of work that I need to do, the 26th is coming too quickly. But I think a lot of people here are really looking forward to that date. So, I don't want to be the spoil sport. Okay, so based off of let me just take a minute here and erase strings and songs. So I think one potentially wise option... So I've got Sickle and Eclipse. So I'm just taking a look at some of the different... 26 happens to be a deadline for something that's got you pretty stressed, so hopefully you'll have... Yes! Well, I think you have the Perpetual Edition as well, so... But yeah, I wish you best of luck. I know deadlines are not fun, but I am, of course, eager to hear what you think of the DLC. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick audit just to make sure that I've got a clear idea of where I'm going with this next. So we've got Path and Pilgrim, which is an interesting option. That takes Rose, so that or Rose and Scale, so that may be worth. That may be worth thinking about. Sea Stories has got Grail and Moon. And I don't believe I've committed any of the other stories yet. It'd be kind of fun if I can commit all of the stories to the Birdsong Wisdom, but I'm not married to it. Oh, nope. Snow Stories is already committed, so it's all open now. Okay, so, but what I kind of want to focus on here are things. So, when I take a look at the books that I've been holding back on, we've got. Oh, actually, I was wrong on that. Putrefactions and Calcinations. I thought that was Rhyme and Remembrance. So Sharps, which we've already committed, so that's Edge and Moon. We've got Tradisma Hyra has a lot, and Tradisma Hyra, I believe, is Grail and Moon. Yeah, there we go. Of course, it also gets rid of curses, so it's interesting in its own right. There's Sea Stories. Rhyme and Remembrance, so again, that's Moon and Winter. But yeah, so the thing is, when I take a look at some of the easiest things for me to read, a lot of them are sort of, a lot of them do have a moon component. So Path and Pilgrim is kind of interesting because of the, the rows and scale, but I just don't have as many rows and scale sitting by. Edict's Liminal has got the Knock and the Moth. Now that one's a little interesting just because I do have the Knock from Surgeries and Exsanguinations. But if it comes right down to it, it's Sea Stories and Sickle and Eclipse. So I think here's what I'm going to do. I am going to level up Edict's Liminal just because it's available and I can use it with Surgeries and Exsanguinations. Emberian Lapidary is spoken for Transformations and Liberations. But I think the next one I'm going to focus on is Sea Stories to level... Which was it? Level 5. Let me just take a look at the books that can enable that. Deeds of the Scarred Captain would be a good one. It's 7 of 12. So I'd need another 5. Well, yeah, that's a little bit much. Okay. Sorry, I'm still thinking it through. Should probably keep it simple, especially because we're at the end of the season. So let's focus back on what matters. So transformation, so that's 4 Forge and Moth. Edict's Liminal is going to be 2 Knock and Moth, so they are kind of competing with each other for resources, but it won't be that big of a fight. So if I'm doing Sea Stories, the focus is on Moon and Grail. Actually, let's just start at the top and eliminate options. Some of these, I don't know, under certain circumstances, some of these might actually be possible, but let's not make it too complicated. So second glory would be interesting, but the snow stories, I don't think helps me here. No, they do actually. Okay, so that would get me 2 for the sea stories. Surgeries and exsanguinations. Okay, well that'll be for Edict's Liminal. We'll think about that later. So now the question is, do I have one with either the... So Preacher Factions Calcinations doesn't work, but Victory of Crowns does. Okay, no, we're definitely in good shape then. So let's put this into practice. We'll go to the Vagabond desk. I guess it doesn't really matter which one of these I throw at it, but we'll use the Arab. Does that make sense? Yes, because I don't need the edge. Alright, I can master this mystery, if enough edge to match a mystery edge. And the second glory we'll use at the Pale desk. Winter Quenchings and Quellings. This is a Deep Mandaic text. I can master this mystery, enough winter to match the mystery winter. Okay, we're not going to do the Time of Division. Actually, we already finished the Time of Division. Curses, I forgot what memory it gives. Alright, I'll sort that out later. Okay, so from there, we take sea stories. I will need Arab 1, 2, 3. No, not even remotely that close. We just need 3. Yeah, I think I may have overdone it in terms of committing myself to things to level up, but now it's just a question of getting enough Grail and Moon. Sorry, just 1 second here. So, the most straightforward thing for me to do would be, well, Beguiling Melody, I guess, would be the start for the, sea stories. So Wind's Ruin again. I guess I kind of need to wait on the others for the simple reason that I don't have Mr. Kill's memories yet. So Satisfaction... no, sorry, Confounding Parable would also work. So for that, we'll do It Is Written. Yeah, the rest of this is really just sitting... A lot of this just rests on my ability to generate Moon... Or, no, actually, if it's on my ability to generate Moon and Grail and such. Then Salt also does the trick. So So with that, we'll use the Whist again. Okay, kind of a tentative start to the day, but I'm not going to be using any of the... Oh, it is new season. All right, yearly stipend. The yearly stipend from St. Ronwin's has arrived, along with the rather usual the usual rather sniffy reminder that I should spend it wisely. Mr. Kill can always spare a few hours to help a friend. It was spring, and the landlady served me a slice of her stargazy pie, with the pilchard heads poking cheekily through the hot crust. So let's get the memories we can out of Mr. Kill for a start. I've carried a memory like a flambeau safe through the mazes of night. Okay. I did kind of organize the day thinking that it was winter. Where in reality I should have just waited, or I should have unpaused for a little bit longer, but that's fine. Let's... A lot of this is really just waiting on the books to be read. We'll see what the current affairs bring. And if I just hang out in the house for a little while, I'll just learn to appreciate taking my time on things. I have a couple of ideas. I just want to see what comes out. There we go. Dead men don't tell no bloody tales. Well, who'd listen? So this is one of the things I was kind of hoping for, is that... But the division that I usually find in this game is that if I want to try and maximize the number of actions I can take with my elements of the soul, and definitely if you get consistent with committing the lessons, you usually have more elements of the soul than you know what to do with. But if you can give yourself just enough space to let whatever assistant you're talking with help you get the memories that you need, if you're going to level up a lot of things, you can't cram it all at the end of the day, but definitely you can take a little bit of time. And in this case here, right, I'm getting my pattern. Well, the pattern's going to, be used to level up the transformations and liberations. But in this case here, I really just need a moth or a forge, and those can come from a few different places. And so in that case, over the course of the day, do I think it's likely that I'll generate one forge or one moth? Absolutely. Do I think it'll be the next one to be generated? Probably not, but I have other books that are providing that. So, Against Vitruvius, a 14th century treatise on the esoteric mechanics and parahydraulics by Abbot Ranulf, best known now as a Mason architect. Ranulf describes how he tested some of these techniques in the construction of the Winter Tower, now called the Long Tower. He admits to unexpected consequences. Ranulf mentions that the Tower of Ely Cathedral collapsed around the time that the Winter Tower was completed, although he stops short of suggesting that one was the cause of another. A tower falls, a tower rises, is all he'll commit to. Wind's Ruin, the second volume of the Meditations of Abbot Thomas of the Abbey of the Black Dove. Abbot Thomas speaks of his time as a raider when his name was not Thomas but Toke, scything the sea, striving for plunder. Abbot Thomas clearly regrets his storm years, and much of the book is taken up with his thoughts on penitence, but there are hints that he also misses those years and the companionship of his sword brother, ship brother, Trygeave. It did occur to me that I also wanted to get grapes. The Queen's Turn, a 16th century translation of the Barrowchild's account of Lagia's turn, when Lagia, the Queen Unsated, was offered the opportunity to enter the service of the Hours of the Triple Knot as long as she repudiated her brother-lover Antaios. Lagia accepts, setting aside the arts of the Low Red Sun associated with Antaios. She bargains, however, for freedom for her daughters. The Hours of the Triple Knot accept casually, knowing that Lagia has devoured her daughters, but wily Lagia has decided in the secret hollow of her heart that she will adopt any who ask, if they can prove their fierceness. The traditions described here, the ones generally described as hill and hollow, are associated with Lagia before her turn, but now that she is a name of the Red Grail, They might also be safely used before an altar of the triple knot. And it is written, Musgrave, fourth of the DeWolf line, writes tentatively about the covenant of Brandkrug and the legacy of the sacred inks he calls Incasta Potentialia. As the light passeth through a prism into many colors, so the great inks separateth into the lesser inks, and the lesser inks into the inks minor. Musgrave coyly refuses to talk of the great inks, or else refuses to admit that he doesn't know much about them. He insists that Ugol and Stargol, which can be mixed with sufficient nectar or sky aspect, are sufficient for most befitting purposes. Okay, so the foresight and the pattern go towards Anbury and Lapidary. We don't yet have things for the moon. And the storm, unfortunately, doesn't really get used here. Better now. I think I'll earn money right now. Someone en route to Hush House. So I'll read about the affair of the Dappled Rose, but I will do that when we're ready to talk to Dr. Adim, because that may not be today. I don't think the solace helps, but we'll see. Dead men don't tell no bloody tales. Well, listen. I could put that beside the storm, I suppose. Yeah, right now I don't mind sort of resting on my laurels and waiting for the books to finish being read. We'll be at kind of the halfway mark of the day, though, so if after that I'll try and make some clearer decisions. Okay, another foresight. The second glory, the Prince Jusa, celebrates the extirpation of the gods who were stone, the hours who preceded humanity. Jusa engages in an apologia for the destruction of the hours. They were old, they were cowardly, they were vile, their time had passed, and it was the shining destiny of humankind to seize the house through glorious battle. Jusa recounts how the hour called Seven Coils was slain in battle by the Colonel, how Grail devoured the hour called Tide, and how the Aegon Hatching fled like a coward. He's quite vituperative about the egg unhatching. He warns darkly against its return. So 2 snow stories and a hindsight. So we'll add that to the list right now. I kind of like this one, but I'm pro Colonel and ending the 7 coiled, so. Hindsight. I keep misplacing this one. Looks like I'm going to need more space soon. Moving on, we have a victory, the Victory of Crowns, erratic accounts by Aaron of the hunting and consumption of supposed immortals by shadowing assassins, published in the late 19th century. The assassins are, according to Aaron, the agents of a power called the Coronel, a soldier of the Secret Masters. The accounts date back to Roman times. Aaron's scholarship is dubious, but she, writes pithily. Incidents of sudden and violent death are interspersed with aphorisms. Hours don't dream, long try not to. I should actually give this to Aaron Peel and see what the reaction is. So, contradictions. Where did I put my fight shelf? That's fear. That's foresight. I'm going to be very happy if this is my first contradiction, but I don't think it is. Ah, yes. So, new contradictions shelf. I know I shouldn't keep my inventory this full, but darn it, I want to keep my... I want to keep my pumpkin in my pocket. Okay. So, in anticipation of future needs, I'm going to clear out the Beguiling Melodies shelf and put that here. And I think I may need to move the patterns at some point. Let's work with what we've got here. So I can start leveling up now. Let's take our sea stories. So for that, probably just as easy to take the salt and the confounding parable. Or no, salt and intuition, because Mr. Kill may give me the intuition. Okay, so then we can put the Arab towards it. We'll use the snow stories because I can. I'm no expert, but I'm no dabbler either. Improve the skill to level 3. Okay, so off of that we will read another book for its salt content. And I probably could have used the some of the furniture for touch, but I'm also not in a rush to get the transformations and liberations leveled up yet. An afternoon spent profitably reading newspapers to the curious, writing affectionate letters for the lonely, steering farmers through the requirements of the Ministry of Agriculture. It is spring, and the landlady has served me a slice of her stargazy pie, with the pilchard heads poking cheekily through the hot crust. So, it'd be nice if we needed some heart or sky, but we're actually not at that point. Skill is now level 3. Its power aspects have also increased. So I think we have what it takes. Yeah. So I'm just going to take a second here. We're going to move this up to level 5. So it'll just take a little bit of maneuvering. Yeah, that's fine. So now we'll take Sea Stories, The Contradiction, Confounding Parable, and Beguiling Melody. Once again, we use the Tryst, and once again, we'll use the Snow Stories. So the slight preference here for Snow Stories is the fact that I don't have an immediate use for the winter, whereas the Sharps, theoretically, there's a couple of other things that I could use that edge for. So another fruit plucked from Knowledge's tree. Improve the skill to level 4. And with that in mind, I've already got the salt on the way, but we've got a couple of other things that we can use to level it up. I also forgot that I might want to get grapes. So we'll use the whist here. So we already have the salt on its way, but we can use the beguiling melodies. We can use the... We don't need the shaft, so we can use that at the vagabond desk. So that would be a confounding parable. So salt, confounding parable, beguiling melody, and... I mean, contradiction is an option because we know Mr. Kill can't generate that. So I'll use the Faust in this case. We're still waiting on an option for... Oh yeah, and actually at this point, now I should really be focusing on gardening. Pluck grapes from the vine. This is so that I can make the last food item that I had on my list but didn't make yet. Also, shame on me for not talking with Mr. Kilmore. But yeah, the cold pheasant with grapes is the last of the dishes that I know how to make that I haven't put in the house yet. So we'll make one of those, and we'll see how the rest goes. The sea does not regret. Eason Fekri, one-time Secretary Salvin to the Curia of the Isle, responsible for the Curia's healing efforts, writes of his experiences in Brandkrug and hints at his travels elsewhere. The sea does not regret the tide, Fekri writes, for when the tide is passed, it leaves its traces on the sand, which traces are the sea's memory. Fekri is a keen fisherman and speaks glowingly of the fish suppers of Brandkrug. He also admits that his enthusiasm for the bounty of the sea has altered him, that before he came to Brandkrug, he consumed only those things found in the earth. I was the greater thereby, but all of us give up what we were to become what we are. Sea spray, depth, sorrow. Skills level 4, so getting close to where we want on the Tree of Wisdoms, but not quite there. I think I do actually have a use for all of these before the day is done. Let me just think it through. So I've got 3... It's summer and autumn, so never mind. Honey or beeswax if I'm careful. Cuckoo honey if the Blomberendi have been by to visit their infant nobility. Better now. Okay, I think we have... I will restore first, and then we'll see where it goes. The spring and this landlady has served me a slice of her stargazy pie with the pilchard heads poking cheekily through the hot crust. Okay, so let me just think about how I'm going to use my elements of the soul for the rest of the day. So we need one more forge or moth, and we map that to Anbury and Lapidary. We've already got the sea story spoken for, and the last would be Edict's Liminal up to 3. So no stolen secrets can be generated by Mr. Kill. So I guess it's another salt. Yeah, I think we're kind of waiting on everything else. So, with all that said, So this is the transformations and liberations. Wait a minute. Transformations and liberations also needs 2 items. So let's go touch a piece of furniture. Let's see what's going on with the snug chair. With that, we'll use the FET, investigate the object. Okay, so this will handle the transformations and liberations, and that's handled by the metal. The sea stories to level 5 will be handled by the remaining memories that I'm generating. So the remaining question is, how do we level up Edict's Liminal? That's a knock or moth. I'll use the Tryst for that. And at most I would need 2 elements of the soul. So 1 Whist, 1 core, which then tells me that I can use the FET here at the moor. I guess technically I could use the health at Crowcross Sands. Or I can try waiting it out and see... I think, yeah, I'll try waiting it out so I can get more grapes. The gossip helps the... Yes, the gossip definitely helps. Because it's got Grail, which frees up some of that moon. Or I guess it's not the moon that I need, though. It's the Edict's Liminal. Okay. The Wind's Ruin, the second volume of the Meditations of Abbot Thomas of the Abbey of the Black Dove. I know we've read this a couple of times. Abbot Thomas speaks of his time as a raider, when his name was not Thomas but Toke, scything the sea, striving for plunder. Abbot Thomas clearly regrets his storm years, and much of the book is taken up with his thoughts on penitence, but there are hints that he also misses those years, and the companionship of his sword brother, ship brother, Trygeave. This definitely has to go to Sea Stories. The Moon's Egg, on the other hand, the third and last volume of the Meditations of Abbot Thomas of the Abbey of the Black Dove. Abbot Thomas speaks of the coming death he hears in the sound of the waves, but rejoices that his blood will water the egg of the moon, by which he seems to mean the future. The last chapter was dictated, not written, by Abbot Thomas. When Thomas's old sword brother Trygeave returned to raid the abbey, Thomas had broken his monastic oaths and taken up arms to defend the abbey. The two had been both mortally wounded. Thomas's last words are, "The wheel turns, the moon sleeps." So this one's kind of free now. And De Bellis Mirrorum, an 18th century epic poem by the pseudonymous Solipstos. The poem elliptically describes a war between beasts, weather phenomenon, and arcane concepts. It's quite specific about their tactics. Sorry, weather phenomena. I think I added an N at the end there. The two unjoined and the horn distinguished, consequently blood. And contradiction, something uncomfortable, but again, all of this is moon stuff, which I need for... Okay, so I guess the only thing I want to change here, so first of all, none of these have Forge, so there's no transformations and liberations being improved off of that. The salt can go towards Edict's Liminal, so that's good. But for the rest of it, we have kind of a surplus of stuff that I don't need. But that's it. I mean, that's life, right? I don't have a whole lot else to work with. So what I think I might do is I kind of want to double check. Actually, we can check this now. think this might be a pattern, but I want to double check. Snug chair, a wicker chair with a soft white lap blanket for chilly evenings. Is the blanket bearskin? Polar bear? It might be, but it's softer than one would expect. Okay, so priority to get the transformations and liberations. Oh dear. What did I do wrong? Clearly there's a memory I thought I had, but didn't. Okay, so I've got 52 seconds for the pattern. Alright, blunder on my part, but let's just use the occult scrap in this case. Unless I want to wait the 6. I guess I can wait the 6. I can wait 2 sets of... Well, easier said than done. Now we can wait it out. Okay. Get one more shot. If not, we apply the occult scrap. Not so sure what I'm waiting for on the sea stories, though. I could have leveled that up. Actually, I technically still can. Okay, so yeah, I'm getting the pattern which will be used to level up. Yes, we're good. I just need to be fast on the pause. So if we get something like an intuition, so much the better, like the grapes from the vine. That's what I'm going to use to make a dish pretty soon. Better now. Okay, more grapes. Great. All right. So that gets me my transformations and liberations. I don't think... I mean... I guess it's nice to talk with Mr. Kill about the memories just so I can have something to carry overnight, but I think most of my main focuses have been taken care of now. When something returns... Sorry, when something is given to the sea, it rarely returns, although of course I did. Alright, This skill is now level 5. Its power aspects have also increased. Now we level up transformations and liberations. So satisfying to have come so far. Improve this skill to level 5. Alright, so let's just clear the last step. So the salt and the pattern will take care of this. The question now becomes, do I want to use the health to go to the beehive again? It might be a little late for me to try and do that. Well, still going for it. The time of division in which Amira Zara prophesies the events later known as the Intercalate, when the hour called Sun and Splendor will be divided. The sun will be divided that it may not sire children. Still its children shall be 4 in number, and its children shall be 7 in number, and its children shall also be numberless. The numberless shall open the way for the 7, and the 7 shall consume the 4. Amira prophesies 4 great wars before the second dawn, when the sun and splendor shall rise again. She cautions sunrise is blood, and I foretell now that the sun shall rise from blood, yet not the color of the blood, nor the hour of night. She includes a rite she speculates will be necessary for the second dawn. Okay. Honey or beeswax, if I'm careful. Cuckoo honey, if the Blumberende have chosen to visit their infant nobility. I wonder if it'll let me put another one of these on the shelf. It will. Alright, let's give it another shot. That's just going straight back into the water. Well, not back in the water, but we're chucking that. And I think we're ready to talk with Dr. Ibn al-Adim. So, the affair of the dappled rose. In the hissing wastes of sand where once stood a city called Maya, another man has died, but he almost made it out. He made it far enough that a goatherd found him, raving to the end about gardens with a flower crushed in his hand. Peace be with you. I ask entry to the house. Yes, I am counted among the long. Immortal is too optimistic a word. All of us have our patrons. If we are lucky, we never draw their direct attention. Try a book with as much mystery rose as their rose interest. So Adim has only 3 rose interests, so we'll try and find... Actually, just verse probably would have been a good choice for that. 6. Okay, we can probably do better. But maybe not. Yes, the radical measures not cutting it. All right. I have been charged to find this piebald garden in the ruins of Maya and to pluck there a piebald rose, as a keepsake, I am told. My patron has been generous, but she is not merciful. Still, this keepsake business worries me. I would like to study the matter more, or a little more. Long ago, you know, there were not so many colors in the world. I suppose life was simpler then, but I prefer the luxury we have of hues. Thank you, librarian. The skill is level 5. Its power aspects have also increased. Transformations and liberations, Forge and Moth are less different than we think. Every change is in some way a release. So last little bit of leveling up to do, and we're clear of our... Then we're clear of all of the lessons. We have a fresh start for next week. I'm no expert, but I'm no dabbler either. So I really only need 2 more books for transformations and liberations. While we're leveling that up, what I might do is just see... So we're looking Moth, Forge... I'll commit Sea Stories before the end. I guess it's Moth, Forge, and Lantern that we're really looking for here. So, So Skin of Silver would do. Temptations of Architecture as well. 7 shards. Now Chandler's Wish is a little too hard for me because we haven't really committed to any Lantern yet. That should be something that I maybe focus on in future. Carmine Petal. I guess Sacralamea does wind up giving some Moth as well. That's actually a mildly tempting one in this case. So if I had 5... not quite there. Yes, I mean this isn't the hardest one for me to figure out. We'll read this one. This should give me 2, which brings transformations and liberations to 7, which takes us where we need to go. Okay. So we'll get transformations and liberations up to 7 before too long. Sea Stories will be... I'll commit that in a little bit. The one hope is that I'll be putting a bit more into Skolakosophy when before all is said and done, but... Actually, I don't really need to worry about anything else. So right now I'm going to put this into Nyctodromi, but our alternative could have been Birdsong. So Sea Stories, the sea has always been the widest road. The Legion Morgan, holder of the key of Black Sapphire, called Seaborn Tidedrawn. Did she come from Ys behind the wave? If we speak her name at the rising of the moon, we can summon that old song of flutes and bells. Can we summon that old song of flutes and bells? These are birdsong riddles. Or the Legion Rowena, holder of the Mare's Key, called Sea Opener, Wolf Wife. Whom did she invite from Ys behind the wave? When the moon sets across the sea, will they follow its road again? This matter of roads and keys is Nyctodromi. So I guess Core is the one that I'm short on now. But 2 more for our path to Skolakosophy, although at this point maybe thinking about where I put the Bosk may be in order. Mostly what I'm trying to do right now is get the elements of the soul that will allow me to have a better salon. So we've already got the invitations ready. We've got the food prepared. But if I can go in with a few elements of the soul to sort of throw at it, then I have the potential to generate a whole lot of other lessons, and then of course we can commit everything to the Tree of Wisdoms and really, really make it sing. So I will get the last of the lesson put in, and then I think we'll call it, because I'm already half an hour over, and it's like 2:30 in the morning, so I should consider going to bed at some point. Okay, the skill is now level 3. Its power aspects have also increased. Edict Liminal, the precepts of limitation and division established by the enigmatic conclave of hours, sometimes called the Chancel. Okay. Yep, I think that's it. So I apologize for not doing the Salon tonight, but I think I'm in a good position. I think I'm in a good position to really make the most of it. I would like a little more core before we start, but I'm not gonna move heaven and earth to make that happen. So we are September 20th at the time that we started. So just a quick prep in terms of where the stream is going to be going. So Monday and Wednesday, I'm going to be doing my usual broadcasts. Thursday, there will be a special broadcast. That is, of course, the release date for Book of Hours. And I don't think I was specifically told not to talk about this, but I will be on the Steam page for to cover it. So for those of you that would like to hang out, now I'll probably start a new save for that. And then on Friday, like I said, there may be something to get in the way of a proper stream. So that one I may have to sort of roll back and just say, you know, we'll get back to you. But at the very least, 2/3 of the week making up for this week. And then following that, we should have a pretty standard schedule. But yeah, Monday and Wednesday for sure, we'll do more Book of Hours. Those will be the last two before the DLC is released. And then after then, it will be all when we're at sort of the official version, release version, that is. So thank you everybody for watching. I know it was a little bit of a mixed bag in terms of a broadcast, but I always appreciate it when you hang out. And I hope you at least whetted some of your appetites for House of Light. Let's see who is online. We got a couple people, but I'm curious if we have anybody doing the Weather Factory stuff. We do not. So I'm going to host Kilgore Trout. I happen to know Kilgore is doing Thief Gold, which I think he might be playing on original hardware. But the other thing is that, in addition to the fact I was talking about Kurt Vonnegut at the start of the stream, I know that he usually goes until about 5 o'clock in the morning Canadian, Eastern time. So I know he'll be a broadcaster that we can, basically we'll have for a bit longer. Anyways, as you can hear, I'm sort of fading. So have a lovely evening. Night to you, Algrins. Night to you, Cree. I hope you have a good sleep or whatever else you're up to. And please enjoy Kilgore's channel. Take care.